always fun. Just another meeting. There's a lot of people.
Andy, Lauren.
I wonder what they're here for.
That's fine. Just let me know when they come up. Rebecca.
Are you restricting how they come up? Or does it just come up like they used to? I didn't know if you go by names now with the COVID thing.
No, they just come up. I think it's fine. They just have to wipe it down in between.
Got plenty of wipes tonight?
Andy, ask if she's ready. You can't hear me. I'm hoping they can hear us. He's all right.
Get your face really close to the microphone. I'm quiet. Nobody will hear me at all.
Are we ready?
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the muffled sound.
Yeah.
We good? Okay. Hello, everyone. We're going to start the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, September 17th, 2020. And I do want to go over, because we do have two items on the agenda that are public hearings. So public hearings for this meeting will be conducted both in person and electronically. Any person interested in addressing the commission may submit a comment by emailing recorder at herriman.org or by visiting herriman.org agendas and minutes, where they will be linked to join the electronic meeting to submit a written comment. Your statement will be read into the public record. All comments must include the respondent's name and the public hearing file number. And then you'll also be able to fill out a form in the back if you're here, and then you'll turn it into Wendy over here. When you come up to the podium, we ask that you wipe it down when you're done speaking. There's some Clorox wipes just to the left of it. And so in between every person that will occur. Now I'm going to start the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance that will be offered by Lindsay Bailey, if you want to just come up to the podium.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Lindsay, if you'll just wipe it off. I know you have a mask on and you probably didn't touch it, but we are just going to adhere to that in policy today. And thank you so much.
Yes.
So we do have a full quorum. We have Adam, Heather, and Andy that are here that are sitting and will be voting. And then we have Lauren, Andrea, and Jackson that are remote that will also be voting. And then we have our alternate Joy here as well. Are there any conflicts of interest with any of the items from the Planning Commission that are on the agenda tonight?
No.
All right, seeing none. We'll look for an approval of minutes for the August 20th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting and look for a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve item 2.4, approval of minutes for the August 20th Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion by Heather and a second by Adam. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Then we'll move on to item 3.1, which is a request for amendment to a plan unit development to reduce the required side yard setback. And we'll turn to city staff.
All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, I can, Bryn.
Yep.
All right. So this first item is an amendment to a planned unit development or a PUD to reduce the side yard setback. You can see the property here. It's up on Burkdale Drive up in Rosecrest. So this is a close-up of what the house looks like. Both of these homes are now built and complete. As you can see here, this property line was supposed to be 5 feet and they've only got 3 feet. Because it's a PUD, the Planning Commission does have some flexibility with the setbacks in a PUD, which is why they have the ability to ask you for this. So again, this is the site plan that they're showing you, so you can see where the setback is there. Whoops. I don't know if I'm doing that or. you can see where the setback is and then where the adjacent house is. So the total just about 10 feet apart between the two houses. So this is the subject property here. You can see the fence line there between them. I also took a picture of a couple of the other houses just down the street from this, just to kind of show that it looks fairly consistent, with the rest of the neighborhood. Go back. There we go. They have talked to the building department. There may be a couple of the things they need to do just to satisfy any building code requirements for that. But again, we have placed that as a recommended condition on there. They also need to receive waivers from the utility companies since they did build over the 5-foot PUE on that side property line. So I think that's all I've got. And then the applicant is in the room as well as online, so.
All right, great. If the applicant wants to come up, please, and just state your name for the record.
Sure, my name is Dan Danzy. I'm the attorney for Fieldstone, who's the applicant. We also have online Brett Woodland and Clark Graff, who are with the team there at Fieldstone. And we've read through the staff report that your staff prepared. We think this is a thorough staff report. They've done a great job. We think the recommendations are appropriate. Fieldstone has been in contact with the building department with respect to the issues that and questions that they have, and we certainly will satisfy any questions or issues that the building department has. I've also been in contact with the utility providers, reaching out to them to get any waivers or documents that the staff might deem appropriate. I'm told that there are no utility lines that go to the rear of the house. All the utilities for these projects are served simply by the front of the house. And so we don't anticipate any sort of problem getting the waiver. And again, as the staff pointed out, the 10-foot total distance between the two homes is largely consistent with the rest of this neighborhood and other homes in the area. So we think that the recommendations are appropriate. We would respectfully ask that the Commission follow the staff's recommendation and approve the request to modify the PUD. And we're happy to respond to any questions or comments that the Commission might have.
Are there any questions for the applicant from the Planning Commission?
No.
Anybody online? Jackson, Lauren, any questions? No? Okay.
Maybe one question here, Chris. What about the neighbor? How is the neighbor dealing with this? I mean, I know they didn't want to make the lot line adjustment. Are they okay with this setback being that close?
We've been in contact with the neighbor, and I don't know that the neighbor has concerns about the existence, the status quo. In other words, the way that it situates, or the way that it's standing right now. We're still in discussions with the neighbor about additional steps that we might take. But as far as the status quo, I don't know that the neighbor has any significant concerns. Clark, you've spoken directly with the neighbors. Do you have anything to add in response to that?
No, I haven't talked to them specifically about that. I think they're fine with whatever. They're using the property. Actually, both properties are rentals, so they're not on site and don't. I mean, they're okay with whatever resolves the problem.
All right. If there's no questions from the Planning Commission, I'll let you take a seat, Dean, and thank you for your comments. And then just, if Tech is here, just if you can mute those that aren't from the Planning Commission or city staff as well. I don't want to have additional comments from other individuals while we're talking. So Planning Commission, any comments, thoughts on this? Because I'll tell you that,
Do.
yeah,
I don't like it, but I don't know what we're gonna do.
Well, we talked about it at the work session before you.
Yeah,
showed
I
up,
wasn't
Adam,
here,
is-
so-
Is not setting a precedence for this.
and that's
down
what
the
we're
road.
worried about, is a precedence. And I'm curious from, I don't know, is legal on, Bryn? Is city legal on here? Oh, hey, Chase. Chase, maybe you could help us out a little bit, because my biggest fear is obviously, we understand mistakes are made. We understand that things like this occur occasionally, is turning around and setting a precedence that all of a sudden we're having other builders that are saying, okay, it's no big deal if I build it closer if I want to, because we've seen it happen. That's my biggest fear.
And I think it's a legitimate fear, Chris, and it's something you have to take into consideration when deciding this issue. You know, I think it's probably not in the builder's best interest to keep doing this continually. I think that's not something they're actively trying to do. But that doesn't mean we want to make it easier for them to make mistakes like this in the future. You know, I don't know what the right answer is. You could require a variance, you know, just reject this proposal and have them request a variance, or you could apply additional conditions to it, maybe withholding a certificate of occupancy until something's fixed. The hard part is you usually don't realize this until you get to a point like this, right? And if this had been caught when a foundation had been dug before maybe it had been poured, we would be dealing with it a little bit differently. But we've already issued a certificate of occupancy. I believe people are living in there now. You're not going to go down and tear down this house. So, Chris,
Okay.
to consider in deciding
How much space
an
was on the,
amendment to these design guidelines, but
Could there be penalties associated with it in the future?
I would hesitate to use that as an approach to solving things like this. I mean, we have this process in place right now, right, to address things like this. And we would anticipate that, again, these types of issues would be caught before the owner of the home was moving in and living there or renting it out. So I think really what we're looking at is probably more of an upstream solution to try to mitigate these types of issues before they get to the point where people are living in them, and then we're trying to address that issue.
Well, I mean, it went
So-
through multiple steps before it got here, obviously, and it snuck through, unfortunately.
how much space is on the other side of the structure? Is that shown somewhere?
How
I
much-
think they have an average of 10 given both sides. Is that right, Dan?
What I'm trying to say is the house just too big for the lot?
It's 5, yeah.
So that was my question, is the house should never have been placed on this lot, period.
Well, apparently the garage is 12 feet and it should have been 10. That's why,
That's why, okay.
I'm
I'm sorry, I'm
shifted.
struggling finding the
Yeah, that's. the
minutes in my
situation.
email.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, do
that right?
you want me to address
Yeah,
that?
yes, that'd be great, sorry. Thanks, Dean.
So, yeah, so there was a discrepancy in the plans, it looks like, that on some sheets that it showed one dimension for the garage and another sheet showed a different dimension for the garage, and that's why you've got the the 5-foot setback on the one side, which is the standard and the required side, but then it encroached into the setback on the other side because of that discrepancy in the garage that ultimately ended up being built 2 foot larger than anticipated.
Are there window wells between the house and the fence? You guys probably talked about this in the pre-meeting, I apologize.
We didn't talk about that.
Are there window wells along that whole side?
There's one.
So how did they maintain it?
The window well, it fits within the current,
But getting across the window well to like mow the
Around the window
weeds? How did they get around the house?
yeah, there's a gate there, and I believe, Clark, that there's a grate on the window well as well. Is that correct?
There is a grate, yes.
So there is a 2.9 foot gate on their property to get back there?
I think this,
It doesn't show it.
There's not a gate on,
There's not a gate.
oh,
on
is there's not a
2.9.
gate, the gate's on
Okay,
the other
so that's my
property?
question is, okay.
Okay.
So let's go back to the drawing. What I'm
We
trying to
may
get
walk
to
across
is,
the window
if
well.
I need to get from the back of the lot to the very, right behind that fence where, and I gotta pick up the garbage right there, how do I get there
Oh, so it's the,
safely without jumping through a window well?
well, there's access the whole way around, so you could come in on the anywhere in the backyard, come in, access that, just like you would any other side yard. It's got the grate on the window well.
So
and
they cross on the grate on the window well.
That's
There's
the only
no
way to get
room from
across.
the fence to the window well.
Yeah,
the window is very far forward also. There's just a very small space in the front.
you mean between the window well and the front fence, Clark?
Correct, yes.
I think we're more concerned about the fence to the side of the window well. You have
Exactly.
no,
So how close is that window well
to the fence.
to the fence?
The window well and the fence are
Touching.
yeah, pretty much.
I'm kind of leaning on let's go with a variance because I don't understand. I know it's a 2-foot dimension. I'm not saying that. I get mistakes happen, but even with a 2-foot dimension, that still makes it 4.9, not 5 feet.
Ye-
So to
yeah.
me, that's I don't know.
If I could make a statement about the 2.9 feet, that is what our surveyors are currently saying, and we had some follow-up discussions with them about that to say, you know, how accurate is that? What is the margin of error on that? And the response that we got is that there could be some, you know, some margin of error based on the review that they did. And so that 2.9, whether it's 2.9, 3, 3.1, I think that there is potentially some margin of error there.
But it's only 3 inches of margin of error because you're talking 0.2 of a foot, correct?
I don't know specifically, but I think it would be a somewhat narrow margin. But I'm saying that the 2.9 may in fact be 3 or 3.1. So again, you know, this is a situation where we are happy to work with the building department to satisfy any of their concerns. We're happy to work with the utility companies, and we certainly understand the concern about not wanting to set a precedent. You know, this is a responsible builder who's constructed dozens and dozens and dozens of homes in Herriman, and we believe has done a great job for the community and continues to do a great job for the community. This is just a situation where, you know, we've got a product now that is existing, and we're trying to figure out the best way to address the issue going forward. And in talking with your attorney, we as the applicant feel that the amending the PUD for this specific house only is the best way to approach this, rather than going the variance route. And again, we feel like the conditions that your staff has recommended, the requirements are an appropriate way to address the concerns that the commission might have, and to, you know, ensure that this doesn't set a precedent, and B, that we address any issues from the building department with respect to safety or compliance with their standards.
Thank you, Dean. If you want to just have a seat, we probably got a little bit of discussion between the planning commission. And thank you for wiping that down. So, I mean, with the window well, we're looking at
0.
inches, if anything.
No, they said it's touching.
Is and I don't know.
So to me,
is that a safety?
But that's what I'm trying to
issue?
say is if say that person eventually they finish their basement, it can't be a bedroom window because you have to have a 3-foot window well.
But I'm just thinking, there's a fire, you're climbing out the window.
And you try
You
to
have
go
to
to the
flip
front
it
yard?
sideways. You have to flip the window well, the cover out literally sideways.
Correct. You can't.
You can't flip it out.
You push it into the fence. That's the only thing you can do, and you're a small. I
I don't know.
just don't understand how I get how it can happen because we're dealing with
Yeah.
super small lots. And again, it just highlights why I don't like super small lots. But I personally don't, I'm not comfortable approving it. I don't see how.
I'm just worried about safety.
Well, that's my
I
point.
mean, if there
is-
really was a fire and we sat here and said we approved it and they tried to climb out and they couldn't get the grate out because it's hitting the fence or something.
Well, plus now that fence is even, I mean, 5 feet is tough.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're making the people walk across the grate, which is different. I get. Usually you make them walk next to the grate, and if they want to step on the grate, they can. This is you're 100% on the grate the entire time, which I don't understand how.
Are
they
there
can be that
additional
close.
comments from the rest of the planning commission? Thoughts on this?
Chris, I guess I go back to what we talked about before. I mean, the house is built, somebody's living there, we're gonna affect somebody's livelihood. I hate that this happened. I do know there's safety concerns, but again, I think our concern previously was, precedent. I don't know, I, even though it sucks, I think we have to move on. I think we have to, put in a stipulation in there that, this isn't setting a precedent, this is an exception, and I don't know.
So I think
I don't think we can disrupt somebody's life though over this either, because somebody lives there, so.
And what exactly does it, and maybe Chase would remark, and maybe Adam has a good idea, with a variance that you guys spoke about, what exactly?
To me, the variance makes them have to go to an ombudsman. It doesn't do anything to their livelihood. It puts it in someone else's hands to say what is the thing that makes the most sense. And for me, the city to do that, to say, yes, it's okay in this one case because there's nothing you can do. Well, there's lots of stuff you could do. The livelihood, they could buy the house back. They could cut the garage off. That costs money. I get it, but that still can happen.
So, Adam, the variance, our variance process would go to our appeals authority,
Correct.
which is David Church. And they would have to be able to meet the variance criteria, which comes straight from the state statute, and Chase can correct me, but I'm confident that they would not meet because it's self-imposed and it's financial and there's a lot of things they probably, again, it would be up to the appeals authority, so you would not make that decision, but I think a variance would be difficult for them to get.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I get that it's difficult, but why is that I'll be honest, why is that my problem? I know it's a 2-foot mistake, trust me, but 2 feet is drastic in a small lot. And so to me, I get the variance, I get all of that. I get that it's not that big a deal, but if someone gets hurt there, I feel it is a big deal. So to me, I'm against the no, and I'm thinking a variance is the only way to go.
So maybe I got a question for Chase too, is what is the liability on the city if we approve this tonight?
If we approve this and.
Yeah. And there's an issue.
And yeah, they can't get that window well up because it's hitting the fence or the house trying to get it out.
Sure. And you know what? There's always going to be liability issues that you have to look at. And what we would try to do is mitigate those. And I think that's what Bryn was anticipating when she recommended that the applicant also work with, some of the other departments within the city to address those concerns. And that's something that you can require as a condition of this amendment as well, that they get approval from the planning committee or the planner and from the building department, and that they address those things. So if it be the weight of the grate that's on top of the window well, or a ladder in the window well, things like that, you can impose additional conditions on that amendment in order to address some of those safety concerns. So, but to answer the liability question, there's always going to be a potential of some liability, right? It's what do we do to mitigate that?
But typically the liability is not on the city in these instances. And if we approve it, does the liability go on to us is the question. I mean.
I don't see a scenario where that would really stick. No.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we wouldn't get.
I think that was our question though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we wouldn't get brought into it, but I don't see how it sticks.
Well, part of the recommendations from the city staff is this one requirement where they work with the building department and the other agencies to come up with a mitigation plan for this.
But again, they can do it. It is costly. I get it. They can mitigate it without anything.
Well, again, the side that's not in compliance is not it's the living space. It's not the garage. It's the garage side that got shifted and pushed over that way. You're right. It's very costly, but
So that is living space, correct?
that is living space there.
So it sounds like there's a couple different views from the planning commission on this one. Potential concept of a variance, and then obviously approving with staff recommendations are the two views that I'm hearing. Are there any other thoughts or ideas of how they'd like to address this outside of those two, or is that pretty much the two views that have been brought up that the planning commission is looking at?
Does the property owner want to go back and maybe work with the neighbor on obtaining more land and then coming back to us?
Apparently that was, if you look at within the packet here, that was, the neighbor was approached and they did not want to.
Because they have 7 feet on that side, it appears. Is that correct?
That's what it says, and that's what's in the document as well.
Yeah.
So you could shift that 2 feet and get it all taken care of, but
And then both of them are 5 feet, 5 feet.
and they both be 5, but that, we can't force
We can't
that
force it.
adjacent
Right,
property.
I
But
was
that's
just
another
wondering.
solution financially that might be a part of the
Right.
discussion, but
That would
that's
be
nothing for us
probably
to
the
worry about.
least. Yeah.
That is costly on the builder's responsibility, but yep. I don't know. I think I'm clear where I want to be.
Chris, this is Mike. I just want to make sure you have a piece of information before the commission votes on this matter. Our building official is saying that any window in a wall that is within 3 feet of a property line would need to be removed. So it sounds like that even that basement window and the window well might have to be retrofitted. So, again, Bryn's recommendation is that we would essentially retrofit that wall to make sure that it complies with building code, which of course is the intent of that is to, have a safe building.
But then
I
it
just wanna
goes to
make
the
sure you're aware
question.
that window would be addressed as part of compliance with the building code.
But it still impacts the owner of lot 77.
But doesn't it go to the question is, I mean, yeah, that has a lot of implications, removing a window well from a home, because
Yeah.
that's also changes the layout. I mean, that can't be a bedroom at all down there ever again.
Exactly.
And so there's a
exactly.
lot of implications on that.
Yes, there are. But, I mean, obviously, it's not compliant with building code where it needs to be corrected unless that property line shifts. Either way, it's going to have to be.
I mean, to me, it looks like there's also the option of just denying it, because I don't see how we can,
That's all we would do, is we
Yeah.
would deny, and then they would do a variance to what we denied.
Yeah.
Right, Bren?
You can deny it and they could appeal your decision, or they could just submit a new application for a variance.
So to me, to be clear, I think we should, and I'm ready to make a motion whenever everybody's ready.
so I mean, it becomes more difficult to even approve knowing that they have to do that aspect of it, but I understand what staff recommended in there would require them to do that, potentially.
Well, I'm thinking though, if they lose a window well and they lose a bedroom, that will affect the value of the house, and that
Correct.
the owner will be compensated.
But that's my point in why I think we should do a variance, because I think right now we have the builder here to represent.
But where's the
actual owner?
homeowner?
And so that's where, to me,
I don't know if we can make a decision on this, because what if they do lose a bedroom, what is the value decrease on that affects them
that's
as a
why,
homeowner?
That's why I think the only thing we can do is deny it, personally.
And Chris, to say I'm, completely against Adam, I think I'm just maybe saying, I just understood based on the work meeting that there would be stuff from the building department to bring it into compliance. And that's the only reason I was saying move forward with that, because there were those changes that we were discussing. But if those aren't possible to make it, good access or whatever, then I'm more on the same page with Adam. But I was understanding from the work meeting that there were other things that could be done. Like we're talking about.
No, I think ultimately what happens if the neighbor doesn't sell on 76, you know, he's going to lose a window. That happens either way. And this is all about, you know, which route does it end up going?
And just as a reminder, it's any openings on that side of the house. And just looking at the picture I have,
It's even the windows.
There's 4 windows plus the window well.
It's the upstairs windows, everybody. It's
Yep,
every window along that. So that's what I'm saying. I think we almost have to say denied, and then they'll have to go for a variance and figure out their plan.
Yeah, that changes
Yeah,
everything.
which sounds like the easiest plan, if they can accomplish it, is to buy 2 feet from the neighbor. So, but.
Yeah, I mean, have that information. I do think that changes everything then. So.
Yeah. So I think we have enough information to make a motion at this time. I don't like it, but I think we do have enough information. So I'll turn to the Planning Commission to make a motion.
I make a motion to deny item 3.1 due to the requirements of the safety concerns and the feasibility of the restrictions of all the windows along that wall.
Motion by Adam,
I'll second that.
a second by Heather, and we'll call for a vote. Adam?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Jackson?
I'm going to say no. I think there could be a middle ground to work this through, but so I'll leave it as no, go from there.
Okay, that gets, so the motion is a denial with a vote of 5-1. All right, thank you for attending. We'll now move on to item 3.2, which this is on for a public hearing. We'll have the city staff talk first, and then the applicant, and then the citizens will actually have a chance to address this as well. And so we'll turn to city staff.
Okay, let me get there. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to kind of explain 3.2 and 3.3 at the same time, if that's okay, just so everybody's clear on the subdivision and the zoning. It'll be 2 separate public hearings, but I just kind of want to make sure I'm answering any questions. So the first item, 3.2, is the subdivision, 35 lot subdivision. It's just a little over 17 acres. You see where the property is located here. So again, here's a close-up of the combination of the properties. So the plot is broken up into, you can see there's an upper cul-de-sac here. 3 lots would come up over there, and then the lower street comes straight up from Solemn Way, which is the street here on the north. This map shows you the hillside a little bit and gives you a good idea of where that 30% slope is up above. And again, there is an existing home on a portion of this property.
Is that proposing to stay?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes. That is one of the lots in the subdivision right now. So one of the things, and maybe this is a good map to show it on here, is, again, you can see where that 30% slope line is. This portion here is the piece that needs to be rezoned. The rest of the property is already zoned 8.25. The 8.25 zone has a density of 1.8 with the density criteria that allows them to get greater density if they accomplish those things. I'm just pulling it up here in my packet. So they have submitted a few things to justify, what their density is. Those things are system improvements. Get it up here. System improvements. They also get credit for combining property from different owners. And then they can also get density for providing half-acre lots. Let's see what else I've got here. So again, this is where the other 3 lots onto this road here.
Can you explain
lot 21. The system improvements, there is, let me just get it pulled up here. So there is an existing detention pond down the hill that this water will, I'm not gonna say the right engineering word, but will end up using, that has not been improved, never been landscaped. So part of the system improvement is they're going to landscape that pond, which services several subdivisions in this area. And then there are also some improvements on, let me get back there, on 14300 South. I believe they're right in this area where that road has never been improved with sidewalk and curb and gutter on both sides and stuff.
But they'd have to do that because it touches their property, correct?
They would be required to do that, yes.
That's really not a system improvement.
On the one side, I believe they're doing it on both sides. Engineering would have to verify that for me.
Okay.
They are also asking, and again, the city engineers and several of the engineering staff are online and they can help answer some of these questions. They've also asked for a couple exceptions, and I believe they're in your packet, to some of the engineering standards regarding the grade of this road, the slope of this road, and also this radius. But we can have the engineers help explain that better, because that's an exception the city engineer has to give. And also UFA, it's a UFA requirement for fire. Let's see what else I've got here. So again, that is the subdivision portion. Let me just briefly touch on the rezone and then I'll go back. The rezone is like I said, just the upper portion. The lower portion is already zoned 8.25. A rezone is a legislative decision, so you make a recommendation and it goes to the council. They make the final decision. The subdivision is an administrative decision, so you are the final decision. So since the rezone has to happen in order for the subdivision to move forward, we're recommending you have both of the public hearings tonight and do not act on the subdivision until the rezone has had a chance to go through the process. So again, just to clarify, this is where the existing home is. And this is the only piece they're asking to rezone. They're asking to rezone it to 8.5, and their plan shows basically the end of that cul-de-sac and 3 half-acre lots right here.
How large are the lots above them, Bryn? While we're on this picture, how large are the lots right above them?
They're 0.25.
Above them here?
No, right here, 105, 106, 107, those right there. Do we know how large those are?
Look like thirds.
I don't, yeah, I was to say they look like thirds to me. They're not halves, but they're definitely larger.
They're not
lots.
quarter. Yeah.
But that's just because they're on a hill. That's
Yeah,
why
they're
so
definitely
big.
larger than quarter.
Okay.
And how did those also had a 30% slope that they built into 106 and 107?
These were approved before we had the hillside overlay zone.
Okay.
So this hillside came into effect after that. Those subdivisions below were approved.
Okay.
So again, the rezone is just that upper piece. So let me just go back to the subdivision. I just wanted to be clear on the rezone, what they were looking at. So they are requesting 8.5 for the rezone, and they will do half-acre lots in that area.
Okay. I also saw a well on the existing lot. Is that only used by that the existing lot? Do we know? We can ask the applicant.
Yeah, you'd have to ask the applicant that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I think that's all I have. Again, the city engineer's on the line. If you have questions for engineering regarding any of the improvements or the slope of the road. Again, I would also just let you know, they did have a neighborhood meeting that they're required to have for the subdivision. The developer has also met with the residents, as far as I know, at least a couple other times. So just so that you're aware of that. You've also received all the emails we have received. You know, you have those, and those will all be part of the public record. We've received probably a dozen emails. So those are all part of the record, and you guys have those. The applicant may have talked about other issues with the residents. If they have, different solutions or different plans, you can have this public hearing. Obviously, any different plans or different ideas would need to come back to you for a second review. So again, we're asking that you continue this tonight anyway for the rezone, so.
Okay. Could we have the engineer come on and describe that? Because there was a page in our packet that came from the engineer. Can we have him describe that page and what his concerns were as far as grade and the 46 feet versus 100 feet diameter issue?
Yeah, hi, this is Josh. So first off, there was a question about lot 105, 106, and 107 at the top of that other circle. I just looked them up and they're both just a little short of a half acre, just for your information. 0.48, 0.46, and 0.43 acres. So just so you guys know that. So,
okay.
So Josh, I have a question for you and Bryn. Why are we not including, right where it says the curve table? Why is that not included? Because why are we already subdividing off a piece right where your mouse is?
Here?
That was an original 5-acre piece, so that's my question, and there's no reason to have a second half. I don't believe we did a 2.5-acre subdivision. So why is not that area added into the subdivision as a whole, including the improvements? Because I don't think that looks like a house in the front that I'm aware of. It looks like it's the house and the accessory buildings. So that's my question is why is it only 2.5 acres added there, not a 5-acre piece, which would require improvements all along 6600 up to that home and including that home?
Yeah, it looks like there's a property line there. I don't think we did that. It looks like they probably at some point, sold off half of the property.
Yeah, it's probably a quick claim. I'm not saying that. But it should be included in that. Unless it was legally subdivided.
Right.
I'm checking on that right now.
Thank you.
They are separate pieces. Now, whether or not that was, illegal to subdivision, I'm not entirely sure, but they are two separate pieces of property as of now.
And we've had this before where the developer, only buys a piece of it, but that doesn't mean that's okay.
Okay. Any questions for staff real quick before we talk to the applicant?
I think Jackson had those questions for the.
Yes, Josh, could you describe the grade on the road and how steep, what percent grade that is? And then could you also talk about the curve?
Yeah. So let's get into the steepness of the road first. So if you've looked at the profile on that, they're pushing 12% grades through there. Typically 10% is the max we like to see. We've been working with Unified Fire to alleviate their concerns because at the end of the day, they need to be able to get a fire truck up those roads. And he feels like we're getting to a spot where that road is a road that they can work with, that they can negotiate and that will work. But just for your background on it, we did have them prepare another set of plans that were to the absolute, right to 10%. It was going to require a 35-foot high retaining wall up at the top. So that's why they're looking for, deviations with engineering from the 10% standard.
What does the city staff that does snow plowing consider on that? Because I know that's been an issue for the city, and I only believe of only one variance that I've ever heard of, and that's up in Herriman Heights, and that was because of a land. The city did not stub the road to appropriate level, and the only authorization we went was 11%.
There's 11 there. I have not heard from Public Works on snow plows, Jonathan. I don't know if you're on the line, if you've had any discussion, or Blake. I'm not aware of any discussion on snow plows.
Yeah, you bet, Josh. I can speak to that just a little bit. I have discussed this with Public Works. They are leaning on the engineering department to have the engineer, the consultant on this, to show that this would not be a problem for snow plows. Public Works has given us, they're essentially leaning on engineering. And so what we're going to do is we we're going to ask the consultant to show that, the governing action, I'd say in this place is we show that if someone pumps the brakes, including a snowplow, going downgrade, if they have an appropriate landing, that they'd be able to come to a stop prior to an intersection. So we're keeping an eye on those things. And I would say this, that essentially echoing Josh's sentiment is that, this is not an approved vertical alignment. This is just to show that we are we are working with the consultant to come to an alignment that makes sense. This is not necessarily the approved alignment. We're just working through it, trying to go through that process. We just wanted to make sure we got to at least a level of confidence that we could say that this is, a possibility.
Does South Valley Sewer have any issues with the slope related to their sewer line and the relationship to it being too steep?
I haven't had that conversation with South Valley Sewer District, and nor do I think that they've seen that. Maybe the engineer, the consultant can speak to that. I would just say right off the cuff, I think that perhaps the sewer slope could run in a slope, perhaps it deviates a little bit from the roadway. But I can let, when it comes time for the applicant to speak, maybe they can speak to that a little bit.
The other question I had is it just shows a 10-inch PVC pipe to go up there. Whoa. That's not normally a city size, at least maybe I'm looking at the wrong size. Is there a reason why you have to go such a large size? Is it because of the slope?
So Adam, our standard is 8 inches. They would ultimately, after, assuming they at some point get approval from the planning commission, they would then do an application with our consultant who manages our water model, and they would ultimately do a model on this area and then give them the size of pipe that needs to be. So it may be 8, it may be 10.
Okay.
But that's, that's not the definite size right now. So that's what they're showing, but no, I don't know what the basis is for the 10-inch.
I was just curious if it was at the near end of a pressure zone, so they had to upsize the pipe just to get it up the hill. Anyway, that was just a question.
Again, Rob may be able to answer that question, but we haven't had any discussion on pipe sizing as of yet up there.
Okay.
Adam, this is Mike. I wanted to respond to one of your comments about the, why did the developer not include more of that property? We currently, as a city, do not have an ordinance that says you have to, let's say you've got 100 acres, but you're only wanting to develop 20 acres of it. When you do your subdivision, we don't have an ordinance that says that when you plat the 20 acres, you've got to include or show the remnant parcel, the remaining area. In cities that are dealing with a lot of greenfield development like we are, that's not uncommon. When you're dealing with more infill type things, that's where we would probably not, have that practice. Another thing to be aware of is that property has not been previously platted.
Okay.
So anyway, so that's why they've just chosen to exclude it. Okay. We, as a city, one of the things that we do have as a tool and why we see one lot subdivisions in this city is that we do require, before you can build a structure on ground, it does need to go through a subdivision. It has to be a legal parcel. So that is one of the tools that we do get, but to get people to come in and actually do a subdivision with us, who may have bought property just by meets and bounds, or doing essentially what we might traditionally think of as an illegal subdivision. So that's good. We do have that tool to try and address that problem.
And that's why I actually wanted to point it out. So if that person that owns that land where the curve table is ever needs to do any building permit at all additional, they will have to subdivide and dedicate land all the way in front of their property, and pay a fee in lieu of just to even build a large accessory building. So that's where I was just asking why it wasn't included.
Yeah, so in some ways you're right. Maybe it would be better, for potentially for that property owner to be included, but yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we have the applicant come up? Okay.
Yeah, could you explain the curve, Josh?
Yes, sorry, we kind of got away from that. So our standard for the center line of a curve is 100 feet. It is less than 100 feet. I believe it's 65. So we're wanting them to do a site triangle study on that just to make sure that we've got an area through there where there's no trees or other obstructions that would make negotiating that curve difficult for drivers. And we've even had discussions of maybe having a slower speed limit. So, you know, a lot of options are on the table for that. But that's where that's what that comment and the engineer staff report was referencing.
Okay.
All right.
This is Jonathan, just jumping in here really quick. Just wanted to touch base on the water question that was asked. I just kind of alleviate any issue there. So that line coming up, that cul-de-sac there is actually a higher zone than the rest of the development as proposed. But to Josh's point, this is something that gets vetted out on the engineering phase. Our hydraulics engineer has taken a look at this pretty extensively. So it's not necessarily an static elevation issue as much as it is having a big enough suppression capacity for fire on flow as opposed to pressure.
All right, thank you. At this time, if the applicant is here, or I don't know if he's online, nope, he's here. Come up and share any additional information, please. And please just state your name.
James Horsley. So to address just a couple of things that got brought up. So on the property, then why isn't it the 5 acres? So that's actually a different landowner. So Mr. Isham is the one that used to own the 5 acres. He sold the acreage to Randy McCleve. So you'll see the owner's affidavit from Randy McCleve. He bought that probably 2 years ago, year and a half ago from him. So actually he's keeping that property. I'm just helping him develop it. So it has actually nothing to do with me. The properties that I'm buying are the Dennery property and the Val Johnson properties.
Could you point out what those are? Because I'd love to know all those people, but I don't know all of them.
Oh, you're okay. You're okay. So maybe Brent can point to them as we're. Oh no.
There we go. There you go.
So you're going to have the red roof is Ed. So that's not a part of ours there and stuff. And then you come up to the white building there. So that's the Randy McCleve property there that he bought like 2 years ago.
Do you want to, it's being recorded, will you speak into the mic, please? I know it's hard anyway with the muffled sound, but.
Exactly. So the white building is where Randy McCleve bought from Mr. Isham. He used to own that 5 acre piece, and then below on that screen is Isham's house that he has right there. Yep, the existing home, yep, right there.
Okay.
So that's why he's not a part of the process of it. So
makes total sense.
Good question. Good question. And then you talked about the well. The well is just used by that house. Is what's going on there. Other questions. So something we do and something you guys brought up in the work session and stuff like that. So what we try to accomplish is we try to make sure that our lots are anywhere from 90 to 100 feet wide. And the reason why is some of the comments that you brought up is we want bigger lots the better, even though you can go down to 85 in this zone. We try to get as big as we can. Gives more playroom, everything like that and stuff. So you'll see we try to accomplish that anywhere we can with these, and not just try to maximize as many lots as possible in there. So with the crowd here today, I appreciate everyone showing up. So obviously they're here for this, and Bryn kind of alluded to it too. So we've met. So I met with the residents on Solemn Way before we had our neighborhood meeting that you guys require. We met and talked about some of their concerns. Their major concern is just traffic, is what their concern is. They want to make sure that we resolve traffic, making sure people are slowing down, safety of their kids, which obviously should be a concern for every one of us, to make sure the safety of the kids and stuff like that. So we had that discussion. Something that got brought up is they wanted us to cul-de-sac off the lower portion of the property, which would be the Dennery property. So you're looking at Val Johnson's piece there, so it's the piece that would be up there. So it'd be that piece right there on the left. So we talked about doing a cul-de-sac at top of that right there. We did some intense studies to find out if that would be possible, and I brought my engineer today to kind of address some of those things so we can make sure that we understand some of the reasons why we can and can't do it with it. But some of the things that came up, and we'll have Rob stand up too, is, so as you guys know, when you're coming up a slope and you go into a cul-de-sac, you have to flatten out the cul-de-sac. So to flatten out that cul-de-sac, it's gonna give us probably about a 10-foot wall on that back side of that. So if you look at the whole development, so you have Val Johnson's piece that will be coming down the hill. If we cul-de-sac the bottom part, the people coming down there would have to turn out and go to 6600 West is where they'd have to go. The city actually brought this up too, is part of the issue is if they do start to slide through that and they slide through it, they're now falling off a 10-foot cliff into someone's backyard there. So that is a concern, again, safety with that. Some of the issues we have too is all the utilities from up top are gonna be going down through the Dennery property down there. So easements going through cul-de-sac lots, as you know, they're pie-shaped, they get pinched in the front of those. And so your easement's gonna have to be 40, 50 feet to be able to get all your utilities to go down that. So that really hurts what we would do with that. So those are some of the major concerns of what that cul-de-sac would do. So then, of course, we had our neighborhood meeting that you guys require. In that neighborhood meeting, we did discuss this and talked about the possibility of doing the cul-de-sac there. We did some more research on it. It just wasn't working. We made it clear. We had multiple conversations with Blake and Jonathan about the cul-de-sac, why the reasons the cul-de-sac probably wouldn't work and stuff. With that, in that neighborhood meeting, and I don't know if you guys saw the minutes from that and stuff, we did talk about trying to find other solutions to slow traffic down to help with that. We talked about, in South Jordan, in Daybreak, they do a lot of those curbs that kind of come in and kind of funnel traffic to try to slow them down. I mean, I don't know if those work too well. The residents brought up, speed bumps. I know you guys don't like speed bumps. We talked about waterways or dips or something like that to slow traffic down. I know that's kind of the same thing with plows and things like that. So then we did meet 2 nights ago. It was for 4 hours. We met from 7 to 11 o'clock at night. We tried to come up with other solutions to help them not have the traffic and the speed going down with what they have created. I don't know if you guys know this street that they live on. They have a pretty cool community there. I call it the Christmas Light Street. Every year they put up the Christmas lights and they string them from house to house and everything like that. Very cool what they're doing and stuff like that. I can appreciate what they're trying to preserve there and everything. So I don't mind working with them, but obviously it's got to work for everybody to preserve what they want. I mean, everybody would love to live on the end of a cul-de-sac with no traffic going by you. Sometimes it just doesn't work that way, but we're trying to come up with other solutions. So that night, one of the gentlemen, I don't know if he's here. Oh, there he is right there. So one of the gentlemen brought up the possibility of doing a roundabout and having that roundabout be right in the middle of the properties. So you have the upper piece, Val's piece, and the lower piece, their lower piece. So right where their property is, so at the top of the screen, where it's all green right there, at the top of the screen. To do a roundabout right there. And that actually was, everybody was pretty excited about that idea. So what I decided to do, because you'll see in probably some of the emails that you got, there's been a lot of confusion about what the city's saying and what the developer's saying here. So what I decided to do is I sent an email to Blake and I CC'd one of the residents on that email to make sure that the communication is happening so they don't have to feel like I'm not trying to help them in their situation and stuff. So Blake was able to reply back to that email today. We're looking at, and when I talked to Blake about it, what was nice is I guess you guys had a traffic meeting earlier in the week or something like that, talking about traffic calming, speed calming devices that you can to slow traffic down. Because with everybody being home from COVID, I guess everybody's seeing how fast people are driving on the road, and you guys are getting a lot of calls regarding speeding. So Blake said that it was talked about to have a mini cul-de-sac, a mini roundabout, that the city would adopt something like that. So we've started looking into that, and it looks like there's some possibilities of that. Again, engineering has to get into it. It's going to be the same type of things. Coming down a hillside, you have a certain amount of, you have to flatten out as you go into roundabouts and things like that. So those are the things we're going to have to work through. We're definitely willing to work through those and look at what our engineer comes up with. Like I said, we just got the information today from Blake. So we'll definitely implement that and kind of show in there. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to keep this on the agenda, because I know we need the rezone to happen before we do anything here, but I thought it was going to be good for discussion, because there are things I think we need to talk about, and I wanted to get some of your guys' advice too on, what your thoughts are to help out with some of this stuff. So that's why we wanted to keep it on the agenda there. But we will be putting a plan together to kind of show that mini roundabout there, and if it's going to be something that's going to help. So, any other questions?
All right. Any questions from the planning commission?
Not at this time.
All right, we'll let you have a seat, and you are going to have another chance to talk. So if I tell you just wait up, you have another chance to talk on the next item, because this one will potentially be continued with how it looks.
Okay,
So
you're good. Thank you.
all right, and you're wiping everything down good. So at this time, we'll open the public hearing, and I am going to read through it just, oh, hold on.
One thing, maybe just clarify what the public hearing is for this first part, just so folks are understanding.
Sure.
Because there are going to be two, just reiterate maybe. So if people want to talk about the subdivision, which we are going to have to continue because we're not going to be able to vote on that decision, the first part of this. Anyhow, I'll let you clarify first.
So we have two items on for the public hearing. The first one is the actual preliminary plot for a 35-lot subdivision. So this is the whole development. This is going to be continued because it's contingent upon 4.1 with what they've proposed, which is a public hearing that'll be on for the rezone of the upper part of the property from FR 2.5 to 8.5. And so it's the 3 lots, I think, at the top of that cul-de-sac in this actual development. So it is 2 items because they sort of are intertwining. If you do come up and you talk about both of them in your public comment, that is okay. But there are 2 different opportunities to make comments, is what I'm saying. So we will open the public hearing at this time. And then just to reiterate, you'll be able to come up, make a public comment at the podium, and you have 5 minutes if you're representing a group, and then it's 2 minutes. Is it 2 minutes, Wendy?
2 minutes.
It's been a little while. 2 minutes if you're representing yourself as an individual.
Chair, before we open that, I just have one thing that I would recommend on this.
Sure.
Since it is such a big reliance on the rezone, I don't think that this public hearing should be closed.
Okay.
So
Completely agree, Chris.
I
Completely
think
agree.
it should be open so that if people still want to talk later, there will be other times to talk on this item, is what I wanted to say.
And I'm okay
On the
with that as
subdivision.
well.
I just wanted to
I'm okay with that as well.
say that before people came up.
All right, and so we will open the public hearing at this time. And you can just come up and hand your document to Wendy over here. And please state your name.
My name is Caleb Pryor. I'm the beginning of the next bit, but I'm actually here to read something on behalf of my neighbor Doug Kirby, who has a health condition and couldn't be here. So
Okay.
I'm just going to read his words, if that's all right. I appreciate the opportunity to address the Planning Council. I've been a resident of Solemn Way for almost 5 years. I had a home in Sandy and then in Draper for a total of 26 years before moving to Herriman. There's something unique about our street, and maybe Herriman in general, that can be difficult to find, or at least we did not find it before we moved here. I've never been on a street where everyone genuinely and demonstratively cares for one another. I've developed a serious illness, and almost 4 years ago. The care and the genuine love that I felt for our solemn family has comforted me and my wife through very difficult times. We knew there'd come a time that the land south of us would be developed. I respect the rights of the property owners to develop their land within proper legal restrictions. I also learned that through personal experience that it is almost always best to work within good faith and another rather than to be adversaries. Even though our start was a little bumpy, we reached out to Mr. James Horsley, who started meeting with him. Our main concern has always been safety of our children, and we also discussed drainage control. We hope to limit the number of vehicles on our street to include a second cul-de-sac in the development, but Mr. Horsley provided us with a partially engineered drawing of how the cul-de-sac would fit. Unfortunately, there's too many technical issues to make the cul-de-sac work. We, most of the adult residents on Solemn Way, met this week with Mr. Horsley. During this meeting, a resident, Mr. Jeremy Brown, suggested that a small roundabout with stop signs could be installed on our south end of the street, where it connects to the new street. We have several partial and full roundabouts with stop signs in our neighborhood in Draper and in Herriman. Everyone hated them because they had to stop and slow down. But isn't that the point? They work. The roundabout will make a real and significant impact on the safety of our children. I hope and believe the commission has the safety of its residents on one of its top priorities. As you would expect, we have some bumps and surprises along the way. I believe Mr. Horsley is a good man. If approved by the city and within the constraints of his business, I believe that Mr. Horsley will add a roundabout with stop signs helping us to maintain safety on our street. A development that works well with the impacted community is one that I can support. I would ask the Planning Council to support us in the residents of Solemn Way and Mr. Horsley by approving his recommendations. Thank you for your time. Doug Kirby.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Cody Corral. I live on Solemn Way, 14256. And I'm speaking on behalf of multiple people here, so I'm probably going to speak a little bit longer. And so I'd like to first discuss our path that's already been referred to just a little bit. Our path getting here as a neighborhood, and we'd like it to be known that we've been actively engaged in this development, not only as an individual, but an entire neighborhood since July. Every house on this street has been actively engaged in this process this entire time, and every house is represented in here today. As we stated in previously written emails that we've sent to the Planning Commission dated on August 12th, and I think some August 13th, we learned of this development early in July 6th, as we saw people that had just purchased lots frequenting our road. We were very alarmed as they told us they were planning on building in July and August, and we were upset because we felt like we'd been ignored during the entire development process and not alerted to this until just a few weeks before breaking ground. So we immediately reached out on July 6th to the several people at Herriman City and our city council representatives and learned the development proposal had not been submitted to the city. So we reached out to Mr. Horsley to see if we could work in a positive manner together to address the issues we had with the development as it was presented on, at that time, Gordon Miller's website. He agreed to meet with us, and on July 30th, at this meeting, we shared our concerns with the development, and our primary concerns were, one, safety. We all live at the bottom of this hill of this proposed development, and it includes a rather steep incline. We're very concerned at the bottom of the road will essentially become a runway or a luge track with speed gathering down the hill, thus putting the children and the families at an increased risk at the bottom. This will be particularly elevated risk in the winter. Two, drainage. We were concerned about the adequate storm damage on the street above us, putting several of the homes at risk for flooding. Mr. Horsley met with us and discussed our main concerns. We proposed at that time, as has been discussed, making the 5 acres directly south of us into a cul-de-sac. We didn't discuss making changes to the upper portion of the development. We had no intent to stop or prevent development or change lots. We respect his right as developer and landowner, and we hoped to turn that into a cul-de-sac similar to one just directly west called Ren Barn Circle, which is in an email that I sent, and several streets west, and not similar to one that is several streets west called Palo Alto, where it is a very steep road that with the incline, which less steep than this one would be, that has experienced safety issues. We understood and respected his need to make a profit and livelihood, and he acknowledged our concerns about safety and drainage, and he agreed to look into this proposal. The next week, he sent the neighborhood a draft of that proposed cul-de-sac that his engineer made and that we fully supported. The cul-de-sac would have eased our concern of the safety because it breaks that potential momentum coming down the hill and decrease the volume of traffic. Additionally, we like to plan in the drainage basin that was on that initial one, being placed in what would be a small future road going west. And if the engineers agreed that this establishes appropriate drainage, we feel like this area would be better benefit as a drainage area with the walkway to whatever development seems to be going west in the future. And I emailed the picture of that area, and I think it's in here anyways. So August 10th, we had our community meeting where the majority of the people in the neighborhood showed up. Mr. Horsley presented his initial plan, and then we spent the majority of the time speaking about the alternative cul-de-sac. We left being told that it would be taken to the city, and if it worked, it would be pursued. We left the meeting feeling that we were continuing to work together towards a common goal. Our hope was that we could change the narrative of the developer versus the community and set a new precedent with communities working together with developers to create neighborhoods that benefit both developers and existing communities, as well as future members of the communities. To make a long story short, we found out the cul-de-sac plan was officially not going to happen when we received notice of this meeting today. To put it mildly, we were quite upset and frustrated, and we reached out to Mr. Horsley to see if we could meet again before this meeting to discuss this issue. He agreed to meet with us on the 15th, which is earlier this week. At that meeting, we were officially told that the cul-de-sac just wasn't going to be an option for the engineering issues, and the city said that they did not want to pursue the cul-de-sac. So it was a lot of emotions. It was a 4-hour-long meeting. It was a bumpy meeting, but it was productive. Mr. Jeremy Brown, one of the neighbors, as you've seen, brought up the idea of a roundabout. And so while we preferred the cul-de-sac to the 5 acres south of the Solomon Way, we agreed that if a cul-de-sac wasn't possible, a landscaped roundabout with stop signs would be the next best option. Mr. Horsley agreed to look into this and involve us in the discussions with the city. He seemed quite open to the idea, and we loved the idea. September 15th, he sent an email to the city requesting that mini roundabout, and he did CC us in the email, as he's already discussed, for a purpose of transparency during these discussions. And while we prefer the idea of the cul-de-sac south of our street, as we feel like it addressed our concerns the best, we feel the landscape roundabout with stop signs was the next best option. We know they commonly have yield signs, but we feel that coming down to a stop down the hill and then progressing through an intersection slowly would be more beneficial for this situation.
Just work on wrapping it up. You're just over 5 minutes for your group.
What was that?
You're just over your 5 minutes for the
Okay.
group, so work on wrapping it up.
We also support the idea of the drainage of the above stated area. We understand that might not be typical, but in this neighborhood, we feel it's a beneficial place and would support that place to be there. We need the planning commission and the city to help us with this. Solomon Way is a family. It's not just a neighborhood. We need your help in implementing these ideas and maximizing our safety. We've been actively engaged in this process as an entire neighborhood from the beginning. We have thought of, pursued, and proposed ideas to maximize the safety of the children and families at the bottom of the street. And while the cul-de-sac plan was our preferred option, we feel the landscape roundabout with stop signs is the next best option that adequately addresses our concerns. We're not against development. We have met many people that have already bought lots on this, and they're fantastic, and we welcome new neighbors. And while we cannot and we will not support a development and zoning change that would increase lots and traffic without adequately addressing our safety concerns, we can support the proposed Valhalla development and zone request with the roundabout if the cul-de-sac's not possible, as we feel both of those address our safety concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's getting soggy.
My name is Rebecca Brinkerhoff. I'm speaking on behalf of a few of my neighbors. After taking some time to try and understand city building requirements, safety, and engineering codes surrounding a subdivision, I feel that there are too many exceptions being asked for to be made. Steep slopes and street designs state that a maximum longitudinal slope along a center line shall be 10% on local streets. All slopes steeper than 8% shall be designed in a curved linear alignment in order to convey traffic from steep slopes in a safe and efficient manner. As stated, I am excited to see if the roundabout is a solution. Otherwise, I don't see how a straight 12% slope will be safe. Our goal should be to accommodate the correct slope for fire truck, school bus, garbage, delivery trucks, and even cars during the winter time. As we are well aware, cul-de-sacs are the very last to be plowed, if at all. 6600 West is rated as a green on the slope provided by the developer, which is still up. Oftentimes, my husband and I will sit out and watch cars make it a third of the way up just to roll back down. And that's a green. So that's a big concern, not only in the winter time, but also in the summer times where we have our children playing and we still watch cars speed up and down the street. There's also requesting the exception of a 100-foot minimum radius to be more than half. He would like 46. I can't imagine the 20-point turn a large vehicle will have to do to negotiate the radius that he's looking for. I question the bonus density also allotment being used for the 0.2 for an improvement of the roadway on the north side on 143rd South. Under code, it states the arrangement of streets and new subdivisions shall provide for the continuation of the existing streets in adjoining areas. New streets shall connect with existing public streets. So if this is already in our code, why are we awarding this for bonus density? and counting it as system improvement if it already is required. The packet also states that the developer is planning to pay a fee in lieu of for an off-site detention pond. If this is true, what is the fee he's planning to pay to not have to do an on-site detention pond? Today, the developer should not be incentivized to pay a fee instead of giving up a lot and building a detention area, which would be needed for the subdivision. It was stated tonight that instead he might tack into an existing detention area and improve that. Can we get more clarification of where and what that means, and if the detention area would be able to handle the additional water for the subdivision? Ultimately,
You're just over your 2 minutes, so just wrap it up a little.
oh, don't I have 5?
2 minutes for individual. Oh,
I'm
the group.
speaking for a
Sorry,
group.
you got 5.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're okay. Is the engineering for this plan and drainage sufficient? If I understand correctly, the zone of A-25.25, the minimum lot size is 0.25 acres and a width requirement of 85. There are 6 lots that I count that fall under this threshold. I'm sure there are leeways here and there, but at what point is it pushed too far? If the zoning change occurs and we are getting rid of our forestry recreation, I would like to see that some type of green space is required, one within the subdivision that is accessible. I believe these items are to be considered hand in hand and not separate. What responsibility does the developer have with fencing in the subdivision? I spoke to planning department and they already kind of advised me that he would need to fence the exterior. And when he butts up against an FR zone, that he would need to fence with a precast. I just wanted to clarify if that's true or not. In the code book, it also states if retaining structures are required between lots on the perimeter of the project, the retaining structure will need to be installed as part of the property development and bonded with the plat. My property is against lots 27 and 26. There's a gradual rise and slope from north to south end of the lots. It goes from flat to about 5 feet in the back corner. Does this need to be bonded with the plat? In summary, I feel it's important to take the time to ensure the subdivision be planned with careful consideration. We have city codes, building and safety standards to ensure what is best for our city, community, and citizens. There's room for adjustment to this plan, and I hope for a better solution to make without making extreme exemptions. Thank you. These are almost out.
We have another one right here. We'll grab that if we have to.
Awesome.
Yes, we have a couple.
I might take one home. I'm kidding.
If you can afford it, right?
Can't find them anywhere else.
My name's Jeremy Brown, and I'm the resident. I live right at the very bottom northwest corner of Solemn Way, so at the very bottom of the luge track that we're talking about. I think Mr. Horsley represented well that our concern on Solemn Way is really just the speed of the traffic and the momentum that traffic can gain from that long of a road that is being proposed up there. I understand the challenges of having that cul-de-sac at the top and possibly falling off of a 10-foot wall. Nobody would want to see that. The reason I proposed having a roundabout there that has green space in the middle is, one, it's aesthetically pleasing for the top of our street. It's also aesthetically pleasing for everybody buying property in his new development, but it also represents a real barrier to traffic and traffic that is not able to stop. Let's say that, even with a 10% grade, if you pick up enough speed, you're going to have a hard time stopping even for that. But a roundabout actually presents a real land barrier. I think we have a good representation of how that has worked for us in the Cove, which is just west of our neighborhood, where there are 3 roundabouts that work very effectively to slow traffic down, not only going up the street, but down the street. Snow removal is still effective, and emergency vehicles can also get in and out of the area. Mr. Horsley was very amicable to that proposal of ours. I think, we want to see as a neighborhood, the neighborhood grow, more neighbors. We want to work with the developer. I think we feel like he has good faith in wanting to work with us on that. But we really hope that you will consider, as part of approving this and kind of moving this forward, that that is really going to be the safest way to protect our children from that traffic and from the speed of the traffic that would be going down that road. And I personally just I brought that up, and the reason I'm here tonight is because I live right on the corner of 14200 South, and that's a drag strip, and that's straight. And people drag up and down that at a very high speed all the time. And it doesn't take very much when you're coming downhill on our street to lose control or pick up a lot of speed, even if it's unwittingly. And so we want to be able to really have a good physical barrier there that would help protect our street and our residents. And I think the engineering should be able to work it out. It's at the top of our street where we're proposing that would be. It's pretty flat already and goes into Mr. Horsley's development at a very low grade. So it won't require a lot of engineering to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, crap.
I guess if I believed you.
Don't worry, your neighbors would have got you.
I thought they were telling me I was using my hands too much while I was talking.
And let's try to stay within the 2 minutes, just because if 30 of you speak, we're here for another hour, guys. And try to touch on topics outside of what some of the others have talked about as well, if you do have additional topics, so we can hear all the differing, I guess, topics that need to be addressed.
Thank you. My name is Mark Drew, M-A-R-C-D-R-E-W. I'm a resident at 14237 Solemn Way. My hope is to finish this within 2 minutes, but some of my other neighbors speaking this evening has said they will allocate some of their seconds so I can finish my statement, so I will do my best. As everyone who has spoken this evening, safety has always been our biggest concern. There are approximately 30 children under the age of 18 who play daily on our street, as well as older citizens, pets, etc. As everyone has stated, Mr. Horsley has the right to develop. We are not opposing his right to earn an income, develop, but we are doing it hopefully within the guidelines of the city planning and safety. Our residents were very open to work with him, and we went into this endeavor with good faith, hoping that everything could be negotiable, acceptable by both parties to where it would not make an impact. I do have to admit that on the 15th, the meeting which I was not available to be to, Mr. Horsley openly accused me of having some sort of back deal negotiation with Councilman Jared Henderson, who works for the same company that I do. I want to state for the record that Mr. Henderson, Councilman Henderson, does not report to me, does not work for me. I cannot impact his success or failure in our industry in any way, shape, or form, either indirectly or directly. Mr. Horsley has also made accusations that the city attorney has spoken to Mr. Henderson and apologized on Jared's behalf because of this collusion, if you would, that there is some sort of quid pro quo.
Can you try to keep the topic based around just the actual development?
It, sir, because I do feel Mr. Horsley is trying to intimidate the residents that he has.
I just don't want any slander going either way, or get people getting defensive.
Who slandered me
in this meeting,
and I have plenty of witnesses
in this meeting, please
attest to that. The residents of Solemn Way are here this evening and all the previous meetings with Mr. Horsley, not to oppose development, but here to ask that it's done with safeguards and taking the safety of not only our street, Solemn Way, but his future residents of the Valhalla development as well. If the request for a cul-de-sac, which seemed to be off the table, or the roundabout are ignored or not approved, and there is a catastrophic event where there is a loss of life, either to a resident or a child, that's a responsibility that you guys, as this council, as well as Mr. Horsley, will have to live with. And as we know, no one wants anyone to get hurt, at any age, at any way, shape, or form. If you were in our position of residents of a street and a development like this was going in your neighborhood, you'd be here in force just like we are. Lastly, as I was sitting here listening to the first discussion for the Birkdale, Adam, thank you. I couldn't see you. I didn't bring my glasses. Adam's comment, safety. And that's what we're asking that you to take into consideration here. Negotiating safety is not an option. The White Star Cruise Line negotiated safety by replacing lifeboats with champagne bottles, and we all know what happened to the Titanic. I ask you to keep that into consideration when you're discussing this in your planning meetings, and making sure that the appropriate safety provisions are put in place for all the residents at risk. Thank you for your time, and good night.
Thank you.
Oh, you did use the last one. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Leslie Miller. I live at 14286 Solemn Way, so I am just on the other side of the northwest lot, northwesternmost lot. I'm not going to go through all of the same things everybody else has. I have emailed the same statement that I have here and talk a lot about the luge coming down, the slope, the grade of that road is very scary. Because I live at the top of that, even our current road doesn't get plowed often, and it is an ice sheet, and I have more than once slid through the stop sign at the bottom when I don't even have the gas pressed. So I slip all the way down the road and through the stop sign. So today it's a problem, and I would hate to see a higher grade there. So after the safety of the slope of the road, my next concern is adequate drainage. We have adequate drainage. I heard about a diversion. I heard about paying in lieu of. We also have talked about that, where do some diversion ponds. Today, the road that goes directly to the south of my home it's not a road. It actually, my driveway faces onto what could someday be a road. And I know that we talk a lot about connectivity and wanting to make sure that we connect. We have 3 outlets from the Valhalla subdivision that Mr. Horsley's proposing. The road, if it hypothetically were ever to be built, Mr. Horsley's not going to build it. It's still a nothing. And if it were to be built, you're not connecting anything. You're connecting 66 to a residential section that doesn't really have a lot of traffic on it, would never have traffic on it. So my preference, and in talking with Mr. Horsley, would be to make that area a retention or a detention pond, because it would prevent my concern, which is that water comes down, it goes into my basement, which is my parents' primary living place, and floods out that area. And I think that if it was well designed, it would be great green space. It would be great place for our kids to go play and not be in the road. And it would also prevent some of those things to happen. And finally, I just want to make it clear that our driveway does face south. And so there will be some kind of accommodation to make sure that we can still get into our driveway, that we can still get into our home. And Mr. Horsley has spoken to us about that in good faith. I trust that that's a consideration that we definitely will make sure that that doesn't impact our home. Thank you.
Where's your home again?
It's on the northwest.
Right there on the corner almost?
Top left corner, right?
Most lot.
Yeah, of Solemn Way existing.
Okay.
Parcel A.
Yeah.
Can you show them, just whoever's driving the mouse, show her where they live, just so that everybody that's out there in BTC land can see? Whoever's driving, I don't know who that is.
Who's got the mouse?
Where's the mouse? Bryn.
Bryn, where's the mouse?
I just want to make
We
sure
don't get dinner
understand.
yet. You can't go get dinner.
Whoever that is, come on.
That way.
There we go.
Yeah.
Nope, not that one.
No,
Not where you
no.
live. Keep going.
Left, left.
Up,
Parcel
up.
A.
Up.
Top of the screen on the road.
Somebody's driving. Oh, somebody.
Top of this. Keep going. Keep going, keep going.
Now go to the
Now,
right.
right,
Now right, just slightly.
yeah.
Right?
Oh, right, just up
Right there.
right there.
Okay, that's what I
Okay.
thought. I just wanted to make sure before we had you sit
Yeah.
down. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And please wipe it down if you haven't.
Hello, my name is Daniel Rojas, and I do have a real scenario for you. If you don't listen, this is some of the things that could happen. My house is just right where the Miller family lives, just 2 houses down to the right. So it is between Napper Way and the new development street that they're going to build. I do have 5 kids. Because of the circle that is already built, which is, some of the neighbors are here, it is very steep, and it's not as steep as what the new development is planning to do. As they go down, as they're heading out of their houses, my kid was just getting out of the house, going across the street, going south, and because, cars, it's almost impossible to brake, and because there's not a stop there, even if, you're going down the road, my son got hit by a car, and he flew 20 feet away. Luckily, he's still alive. Then I'm really concerned because just another 50 feet away, there's a bus station, and there's always kids going across the street waiting for the bus. As they already mentioned, when it's winter, our street will be one of the last ones that they will be cleaned out because they will clean 142 mainly, but ours we have to wait. So I can imagine. I seen that too. That some of the buses or even the garbage trucks sliding down the road again. I always leave concerned and afraid, and now having that double concern is even worse. Now after I learn about the new development. So I really like to consider what my neighbors are here to propose to you, and because consequences really happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a different topic than that. My name's Chance Gledhill. I own the 5 acres between just south of the subdivision that's being proposed. I have a cul-de-sac on my south end, and now I got a cul-de-sac on my north end. And my thing is utilities, I was told by the city that I couldn't develop with the guy from the south on this 5 acres, but I'd have to wait till someone develops the north. And now I feel like I'm getting sandwiched in with no, that's the slope. The sewer has to go that way. And I'm gonna be sandwiched in with no utilities at all here. And in the future, I could go out to 6600 West, but then I'm so small, there's no way I could improve 6600 West and make it worth doing anything with such a small subdivision. And I don't know if the slope that way would be good enough for sewer. And so there's got to be a way to give me some kind of utilities to my property. And I don't know if you want me to address my other.
Can you tell me how you access your property, Kurt? This is Adam right here. I know you can't see my lips.
Twin
but...
valve
How do you access it currently?
What's that?
How do you access your property currently?
How do I get access to it?
Yes.
I have a.
If you're directly south, from what I understand, is you're right
Directly
below
south
lot
of Val
7.
Johnson's, I have slope to mine, I'm against the hill. I don't know if she can show that on there, but
This is showing us the best. Can you tell us, oh, right there. Is that you right there?
that's me, yeah.
Okay. So you're the upper of the rezone
Yeah, I'm
piece.
upper there, and
Okay.
I was told I couldn't develop mine with that upper one because of slope, and now I was told that, you know, the utilities would have to come down below me, and now I'm getting, you know, pretty much cut off there with that cul-de-sac there, and
So you currently, to get to your property, where's the road that you drive? You
I
drive
have a 20-foot
easement?
access for egress through Mr. Wars to my.
That's the 5 acres that goes into the hill?
Yeah, to my west.
Okay, I see where you're at. Okay.
Yeah, that 5 acres, I have a 20-foot access on the north boundary, but there's no road there. That's my access. It's not improved or anything.
Okay, you just own the land.
I just own the land, yes.
Okay.
So I'm just concerned with getting some kind of utilities there and not getting sandwiched in here and not having anything. And then I guess the next topic is the rezone, so I'll comment there too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Randall Isham. I live on 14431 South, 6600 West. Property up is against lots number 4, 5, and 6 on the new subdivision. My comments are about stormwater flows, fencing, dust control, are my 3 emphases I'd like to talk about. Lot 4, 5, and 6 are directly against the lot. Lot 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 flow into those lots. That represents 3 acres of ground that'll be exposed that I would like to have some stormwater control on. Whether you have conditional use on putting swales on between the properties, between our property as well as the individual lots, that's what I'd like to recommend. I'm not commenting about the stormwater ponds. I don't have the expertise. Concerning fencing, we have 675 feet between the east side of lots 4, 5, and 6, as well as lots 21. We have, there's 360 feet there, so it's actually the 340 on the east side on lots 4, 5, and 6, and 330 on lot 21.
So on this map, you're kind of living where the curve table is. It's Adam again. This is
I'm
where
sorry?
you live where the curve table label is on this map. If you look at that
Yes,
screen. Okay.
yes.
Just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, yeah. And I know on city ordinance 1021-7 indicates that when there's differences, when there's lots being developed residential versus agricultural, and we are an 8.25 there, that a 6-foot vinyl fence on the outside of the property is the standard measure on that. And I'd like to concur with that. Lastly, on dust control, we've just had a new subdivision or ground exposed to the south of us. Chance went ahead and described it also. It's right to the south of us. We'd like to see a little bit more dust control implemented. Currently, when they were doing their excavation and fill. They were taking a water truck about once every 4 hours. And every day our cars and our property and houses were covered with dust for many months. I was wondering if we could have maybe every half hour to hour while the excavation's going on, if we could have a water truck go through there. And that concludes my comments.
Sir, I have one more question for you.
I'm sorry.
I have one more question for you.
Sure.
I thought I saw from the GIS map that they were on a little while ago that you're on well water. Is that true?
Are we on well water?
Are you on well water?
Yes, we are.
And is your well water rights contingent upon a water line approximately close to you, or is it a well that can stay even if the city water goes by?
When
your
the city water becomes available.
Okay. So
So right now, there's no city water close by.
but they will be extending it all the way up to lot 21.
Right,
And so that's going to be close by.
right.
Okay. Just want to understand that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Cabot, and I am lot 107. One of those lots that are a half-acre builder's acre. I know y'all call what's behind my house a hill, because you're from Utah. I moved from flat underwater Florida, so I call it a mountain. And I am one of those vehicles that will go up to my street, into the cul-de-sac, and just roll down. But because I am retired law enforcement, I know how to steer it and not hit everybody's house. I apologize to everybody I scared. So I do know what happens when there is a slope of above 9, 10, or 11 grade, because I have assisted many accidents of truckers, bus drivers, and city buses that can't lock their brakes, and when they don't have somewhere to brake, they just crash and kill people. So my concern is not only the grade, but I call it a mountain, because even I've fallen from the top of my yard and ended up with knee surgery. So I can tell you it's very slick and very high. But I'm here to say, if it's recreational forestry, is there going to be any deer spaces anymore? Because my neighbors in the back of me are really deer. And a mountain lion that did come into my bedroom one time. Just saying. That's okay, I didn't hurt her. So my point is, what happens to that lot 17? There's really no explanation for it. Looks like a flag lot to me because there's no road for him. And then what happens to the lots behind him? Are they going to eat up the mountain? Are they going to take away the forestry, the falcons, homes, the deer? My daughter's here. She's only concerned about the deer, but I'm concerned about all the issues with the slope. And not to mention, we don't get plowed because my lot is the last on the cove, and we definitely don't get plowed. And coming from Florida with a two-wheel drive pickup, I'm constantly at the end of my street, and my nice neighbors let me just park it there for days on end because I can't get up. And if I can't get up and my slope is that low, I can't imagine y'all doing a slope higher, an exception that really would be insanely dangerous. And I'm saying this from being law enforcement. But that's all I had to say. But I'm really happy to be in Utah, and I really love it.
Thank you.
Whoops, wait. I already had COVID, so it doesn't matter. Just saying, my daughter and I already been through it. It's not a death sentence. No, it was in February.
All right, seeing if there's any other comments on this item. All right, we will leave the public hearing open because this will be potentially coming back. And then I'm going to turn to the Planning Commission for additional comments and potential questions for the applicant or even city staff on this item. So turn the time to the Planning Commission on this one now.
So I have a bunch of things I was writing down during this that I think we need staff to address. Again, you heard me ask a lot of the well questions. That is going to change a lot of the dynamics of those larger lots that have already been approved, like the resident that was talked, because we are going to be bringing up water line with this development would go all the way up past lot 21, which would mean that we need to address what's going to happen with the property where the curve table is and any other prospective properties. I also think access to the other 5-acre lands, and that's what I'll say, needs to be also addressed. But one thing I think I would really like staff to look into, and if you can go to your green map, your 30% slope analysis map, because it shows everything. So the one thing that and someone pointed it out, and I'm glad they did, is it is a flag lot. We do not allow flag lots. So what I would like the applicant to look into, and I think it will also address the 12% grade, and whoever's driving, if you could go to the intersection of 14400 South and 6600 West so that I can express, okay? What I would like to see is a road goes from right there and follow me all the way to right where the flag light starts. I think not a cul-de-sac, but a knuckle should be right there. There should be 3 lots coming off of that road. The lower cul-de-sac would stop approximately right where it goes green to yellow. If you understand what I'm saying, I need somebody to draw the mouse because I want to make sure every planning commissioner
You're
is
saying
under.
you need to break the long road in half.
Yes, and by doing that, I believe if you made the knuckle right where that flag lot, you need to push it way closer to the flag lot so that it is not a flag lot, it is a driveway.
Yep.
You raise that elevation up tremendously to try and make that the road to the south is not 11% grade, and you get it back to 10%. So those 3 lots off of that knuckle would be walkout basements, and you let the homes be the grade elevation.
Yep.
Then you have a small cul-de-sac coming off of, I don't know your street names and I apologize, but right around there. If you could put your mouse right about where the green to yellow transition is, whoever's driving. It's a lot easier when you guys are in person. Somebody drive.
Bryn's having dessert now.
Bryn, Mike, come on. All right, show me my mouse. Right there. That's where I would like the cul-de-sac to be, and that way you transition between those homes, as well as...
The cul-de-sac going up this way?
Yeah, when you move it, we can't see it for some weird reason. Can someone here in the room control the mouse by chance? Destiny, I think you can tell me what I'm trying to show. Yep, you got us to the right spot.
Oh.
Go back to that map. Now draw the mouse. You go ahead. We'll trust that you do it. Anyway, if you want to go back to another map so I can tell you what lot number it is, that's fine.
So I think maybe right here, let's leave it on this one, Adam.
Oh, okay.
I would say, you're saying we need a big knuckle there where lot 16 sits.
A big, wide, fat knuckle that swoops almost right up to lot 17. It should not even look like a flag lot.
Yep, right now it's a flag lot.
It should swoop all the way to right there, and then the road should bend back towards lot 3. By doing that and raising that vertically, drastically, you'll make it so that that solemn way, we're going to call that, I know it's not going to be called solemn way, we're going to call it not solemn way. Solemn way will be a lot less steep. Okay?
Amen.
Now go to the next map. I'm good. We don't need to clap. We're good. Go to the next.
Just getting started, folks. Just wait.
Go. Yeah, right. Okay. So where lot 35, lot 22 are, that now is, they are accessing off of the road we just talked about, off the knuckle. There are 2 to 3 lots maximum there. And the cul-de-sac stops around where 32 to 25 is. And it's coming up. That is the way I think the road connection should be. Now I'm going to talk about the density. Okay? So now if we go back, like I said, clapping doesn't usually help me, so it kind of makes me mad. So go back to the green and red, and it's not for any other reason, because I just want you to understand this is what I always have thought should happen. So go to the green and orange again, wherever that is. Okay. So when we zone, and I'm not talking about the rezone, I'm talking about the 1.8 units per acre. To get more than 1 units per acre, you have to be pretty aggressive, and everybody knows that I actually helped build that table, and so that's why, to me, you have to be pretty aggressive. I see that you gave us a few half-acre lots. To me, those are required anywhere you're touching a 5-acre piece or bigger lots. So I would expect to see some along any 5-acre piece. It would be actually the buffer. That would be the only way that I would be considering that you would be getting density points related to half acres. Related to master improvements, that would be you are connecting the roadway, which I can't remember the lady that lived where she lived, but if somebody could show me where that mouse is, you would be actually extending that roadway to 6600 West. That is a capital facilities, a noteworthy roadway construction that would allow you to get density. And I'm trying to give you guidelines of what I am at in order to get to a density. You definitely did combine property, which I think is worth above 1.8. I'm not saying that. But honestly, that's the only thing I think that I see that you have done. And so that's why I wanted to give you some points for seeing if you can find other ways to get density. Because those are what I would expect to do. The storm drain, you're already doing it off-site because you don't have a storm drain pond. So to me, that's not an improvement. That is, you're just not doing it here. And again, I'm just one voice, but I didn't know how else you all feel about that. But those are some suggestions that I have. We can talk more about the rezone when it's the discussion of the rezone. So those are what I was writing down during that discussion.
I'm going to second what you say, Adam. I think the solemn way as proposed here is too steep at the south end, and it needs to be broken in two in order to get away to get below 10%. I don't see a way to do it unless you break it into 2 pieces and have 2 different access points.
And and I agree with you, Jackson, and the must is you have to not do a flag lot. We do not allow flag lots.
No flag lot.
So that knuckle needs to slide as far over, work with your engineer to slide it over to that property. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And even if you end up cutting out that 5 acres, they still have to have access that's not a flag lot. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Like I said, I want to turn it over to you guys, but those were the big ones.
No,
my phone died, so I can't look at staff's recommendations anymore.
I will go to, I'll continue with my comments and be quiet. I think there's also 2 lots that are less than 85 feet wide, and that's also unacceptable. So more of the issues seem to be on the south half, but those 2 lots that are less than 85 don't work.
And Jackson, one thing I did say is I still think the total lot number, and I'd like to see the density table to look at it, I still think the number of lots seem to be high. If you're going for the 1.8 plus maybe 0.1 for the current density. And that's why I want the developer to go back and think about what they want to go after, and then we can start talking about the lot lines and density.
And then go down my list.
Poor little guy.
Go down my list. We talked about width requirements. Thank you, Jackson, because I do have concerns with that. The bonus density, I said the same thing. It's not adding up to me. Adjoining properties, as that was brought up, I do understand that as a city, we do look for the ability to have the properties continue to flow into other landowners' properties. And by no means do I want to have limitations in areas where it makes it to where it's very difficult for a property right next door to ever build because we had cul-de-sacs going to two areas. And so that is something else that, and then fence requirements, I'm not bringing it up here because that will come back to us when we're farther along the lines, but there are certain areas that would require fences. Adequate drainage, we talked about that as well. And then the last one on my list was the rezone, but we'll talk about that in the next item. And so I think we touched on most of the items. I appreciate Adam and Jackson. They're much better at this than I am. And so I appreciate them touching on that. But is there anything else on top of those items coming from the Planning Commission that need to be looked at?
Just second what Adam Jackson said, the 12% is a no-go for me. So there's
a better
opportunities,
solution.
there's a better solution to get the 10% required.
And I would like staff to look at maybe how we are going to solve the solution of the other land to the south. I'm not saying that's necessarily solely to the developer, but we need to have a solution, is that development coming a different direction so we don't landlock that property.
I agree with you guys on this. I had a lot of issues. I had issues with the density. Safety was my number one concern with this street. I live on a street that's similar to the south end of this development, and it's only a small portion of what this road would be, and cars fly down it. And I've driven up your street when it had snow on it, and it was a disaster. So I understand your safety concerns with the road, and I think that the road grades that's a no-go for me. And anything with fire, you guys are in a high risk for fire. So I don't see granting an exception to make it harder for a fire truck to get up there. And let's see, so lot sizes, we addressed that. And then also I'm wondering if lot 10 is even buildable with the grade. And then also I was wondering how lot 21 would be accessed.
Yeah, and with that, that's something I'd like to see next time it comes back, is actually building lots. James, you saw the concern I had earlier today with when somebody built up past the line. I'd like to see the actual buildable area lots shown on this.
All right. I know the developer will be able to speak a little bit with the next item, so I'm not going to ask him to share anything else at this time, but
I'd like to make a motion when you're ready.
Yeah, we are looking to make a motion at this time.
I move to continue item, sorry, I lost track, 3.2.
Second.
Okay.
A motion by, but we did leave the public hearing open. Is that what was asked?
Yeah, there was an online comment that came through.
Oh, all right. It's still open, so
it's still open.
Let's read that. Wendy, do you mind sharing that with us? I apologize. This online world's a little different with these meetings.
We have two comments for item 4.1.
Oh, they're 4.1.
Are they 4.1?
But hold on though. I know that it's open, but if we've moved on, it's just like if any of these people wanted to come back and re-talk about what we just talked about. Okay, good.
Okay.
Hers designates file number S2020-047. That's the item 4.1.
I don't see what the S number
Actually,
is.
that is 3.2. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. Sorry about that. Can I read this now?
Yep. Yes,
Since you left
please.
it open?
Please.
Okay. My statement today is concerning parcel number 32-10-200-015-0000 and why I believe it should not be included as a part of the Valhalla subdivision. My reasons are threefold. Number one, Valhalla is being presented and justified as an A.25 zone. The density the developer is looking for is permitted only by the A.25 zone. Currently, this parcel is Forestry 2.5. The applicant is requesting a zone change to A.5. Even if that's approved, you're being asked to use a lower density zone to justify additional density in a higher density zone. This feels like filling a produce bag 2/3 full of apples and then a third with pomegranates and paying a check out as if the whole bag were apples. This parcel isn't really being developed. Half of the parcel cannot be developed because of grade. Much of the rest of it is already developed. The 2 lots being reserved are not being built with this project. Only a portion of 1 lot in this project is actually on this parcel. What this tells me is that the parcel has only been included to pad density for the real project. Number 3, the existing home on the parcel creates a need for a flag lot. However, according to Code 10-29-18B-5, a flag lot shall not be created as part of a subdivision where there are more than 2 lots in the subdivision. So the flag lot cannot legally exist as part of the 35-lot subdivision. However, if the parcel remains separate from the subdivision, it can be created. I fully support the landowner, the developer, and the builder's rights to develop and welcome their project, so long as it fully fits with current zoning and development codes. We as residents and the city should never stand in the way of development rights or profit. Equally, it should never be the city that bends rules to help them make a profit. The value of land is based on its potential only within the law. And that was from Sherry Ricks.
All right, thank you, Wendy. Is that the only one for this item that we missed?
We have one for the rezone.
Okay, so we'll read that in the next one.
Okay.
All right, then I'll look for a motion from the Planning Commission.
I'd make a motion to continue item 3.2 without date, so staff and the applicant can address all of the items we discussed.
Okay, motion by Adam,
All second.
second by Andy, and we'll call for a vote. Adam?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
And Jackson?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And that was continued.
The
And so
public hearing was left open.
the
right?
public hearing was left open, so when it comes back to us, a public hearing will still be open, so you have a chance to share additional comment. We also did that because there's a high probability they'll come back with something, with some adjustments.
And Chris, they will get noticed again. They will get noticed again when it comes back, so.
Okay.
Because we left it as a public hearing.
So now we'll move on to 4.1, which is a legislative item. And so just to help those that are here, a legislative item is actually a recommendation made to the city council. So there's actually nothing is finalized here. It's just a recommendation to the city council, so the item will move on to the city council where they will make a final decision. And so we'll look at turning to city staff to talk about 4.1, which is a rezone for property from FR 2.5 to 8.50.
All right, again, so this is just the upper 5 acres that we're talking about. It's currently zoned FR 2.5. And as you mentioned, this will go to city council after you guys make a recommendation. The rest of the property is already 8.25. So they're requesting 8.5, which would be an agricultural half-acre zone. You can see a portion of it, about half of it is where the existing home is. Their proposal shows basically the top of the cul-de-sac and 3 lots up top here. This hashed area that you can see, if you can see that on your screens, is where the hillside overlay, where the 30% line is. So everything above that would be unbuildable. That's really all I have on this one. Do you have any questions for me?
Can you just go to the overall that showed it just right before you zoomed in?
Yeah.
That one. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brent. And at this time, we'll ask the applicant to come up and be able to share additional information.
So regarding the James Horsley, regarding the rezone there, so I wanted to make sure it was clear, and maybe you can go to maybe the subdivision layout. So a good portion of these lots will still be in the, if you look at it where the line goes, these two lots here, a good portion of those lots will still actually be in the higher zone there. So that's, and you can see Val's house is actually keeping a lot of that property as a part of his house as well too, in that area.
So the back,
We're
the
really
back
just
part
talking
of these
109
lots.
through 111, right?
What's that?
We're really just talking about 109, 110, 111.
Yeah, 9, 10, and 11. Yep.
Are you saying some of the backs of lot 12, 13, 14 are actually within that
Hillside
area?
zone. That's that line.
Kind of see the line that goes right there. So part of lot 11 and part of lot 9 are actually in. And then, of course, a lot of Val's property there that goes all the way down there is actually a higher density there for that. So
no, those other lots are not. You see that shaded line just to the
Yeah.
right of those property lines.
Okay.
So what we'd like to propose for the rezone is actually, we'd like to just rezone the area where we're doing the lots, not rezone the whole 5 acres, because if you do rezone the whole 5 acres, that would entitle Val's house to get density later on and stuff like that, and that's not what we're trying to accomplish. We're just doing this because the layout of the subdivision works to have the cul-de-sac there and to be able to have those lots there, as you can see the flow of the cul-de-sac there. So that would be our proposal to do that, and then we are proposing for the back portion of those all the way across Val's property to actually deed that property to the city. As some of the residents talked about, the city does like hillside stuff. They like to control the hillside to make sure they preserve the hillside and stuff like that. So part of our proposal was to deed that to the property. I've heard there's some comments back from other staff members that staff is liking that and having control of the hillside, just so that people don't do stuff and roll rocks down the hill and stuff like that. They can control it a little more. So that would be our suggestion on the rezone, just to make sure that with this rezone, you know exactly what you're going to get. It's not like you're going to get more in the future or anything like that. It is rezoning that section of it for those 2 additional lots there. Obviously, we didn't get a rebuttal some of the comments that were made before and stuff. I disagree, obviously, with a lot of that. There's nothing in there that talks about it has to buffer a 5-acre part to have a half-acre lot there. It doesn't say that in the thing, so I don't.
I was just giving you ammunition for what we can talk about later.
I agree and stuff. So obviously, I mean, you know, the half-acre lots that we're providing, I think there's a need for them. I mean, we like the half-acre lots, especially when you do get into hillside stuff. It's nice to have some bigger lots there to be able to accommodate and to be able to fit certain house plans on there and stuff with that. So, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the proposal for that. I think we'll be able to work together to make sure we get the density. As staff, you know, says that we obviously submit the point system and what we believe that we should get points for. Staff has obviously said these are the ones that we believe that you're getting. Obviously, you guys question that and stuff like that. We believe we'll get there with what we're presenting, and I want to make sure everybody understands we are having a detention pond on site. The proposal was, so the pond that we're proposing to landscape for you guys is actually the next street over, right there on a Butterfield Parkway that's never been landscaped there. So it has nothing to do with us pushing water there or doing anything like that. It's us making it look better in that area. So I don't want people to think that, oh, we're trying to get more lots there and push our water.
But isn't that was, I mean, that's something to talk about, but that I thought was the road, so that's what I.
So parcel A is what, the detention pond, is that what you're saying?
Parcel A, sorry, I don't.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Look at the screen.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I see. Yep. That's where we're proposing to do the detention pond there with that. And then we are planning on the top part. They did talk about a lot of the storm drain. The top part of Val's, we're trying to take that out to 6600 West and down 6600 West, so that all that water is not coming down towards the Solemn Way stuff. So we are proposing to do our own detention pond, and then why we'd get the bonus point for a system improvement would us be doing that landscaping on that pond that never got done. Another one they talked about with the bonus density too is the developer, which as you guys know and as it was discussed, the developer should have done a half-width road plus 10 feet is what he should have put, curb, gutter, sidewalk, and everything in there. It never happened. So somebody's gonna have to do that. As you know, required for me is the same thing. I have to do a half-width road is what I would have to do. So that's what we were talking about. There was talks about that there was, you know, a fee in lieu or something that the developer did, but we've never heard if it really ever happened. So it's either going to be the city that's got to pay for the other half of that road, or we would do that. And of course, that would be a system improvement to do something that should have already been done there. So we do feel like that the point that we will get to there, and talking to staff and everything, we're looking at it's going to be anywhere from 39 to 41 lots that we would have the points for and stuff. We're not proposing to get those lots. Even with this zone change, we're not trying to change anything here. We found out about these lots dipping into a different zoning, and that's when we came back and said, hey, we're not changing our lots. We're not trying to get more lots. We're just saying because it's in a different zoning, we're doing that. And if we can get our points to where they are 39 or 41 lots, we're not going to change and try to get 39, 41 lots. The plat, I mean, it lays out well. I mean, obviously you had some ideas of different ways to do it that we can look at and stuff, but plat lays out well as it is. If we're going to have slope issues, I mean, if we have to go to the 10%, you know, it might be what we have to do. And it's that 10%, we just move forward with that. So, but I think for the rezone, I don't see any reason why the rezone wouldn't be approved for this. I think it fits well. It gives them the thing. I know in one of the comments it said that this isn't part of the thing. This is part of it. Val wants, you know, lots for his kids. We are developing these lots and making sure they get improved the proper way and stuff like that. And his two kids are keeping lots and building there, but we are the ones that are going to be construction lots 10 and 11. All right. Questions?
Any questions from the Planning Commission? I do have one question, and if we can go to the rezone map of the lots. Do we have the one where it shows actually the lots in that rezone? Yeah, can we go back a little bit? Sorry.
Hold on, let me try to get there. The subdivision lots?
Yes, please.
That shows your 30%
Yeah,
slope line.
correct.
Sorry, it's just really slow. Oh my goodness.
It's teaching us patience.
There you go.
So,
yeah.
So on lot 10, I'm just curious what the acreage is that is actually even buildable.
Yeah, and we'll definitely do what Adam suggested. We'll come back with the footprint of where the home can be built on there. We'll have that as a part of it. I agree with you. You got to make sure that it can do that.
James, I actually do have one question for you. Why didn't you go to A1 right here for these three?
What's that? Sorry.
Why didn't you go with an A1 zone? If you and if Bryn kind of goes back to the overall map that I was asking, I'm sorry, Bryn, I'm not trying to be a pain, but I am. But if you go look at that, if you look at what we've typically buffered against these 8.25 between the FR 2.5, we usually, we actually took a step to actually try and put A1 as a transition. So I was just curious if you had thought about going with an A1 zone for those three lots, because if you, like I said, if they show it, if we could get there, one more, keep going, man. So right here, if you look, you can start to see that there are A1s whenever we transitioned. You can kind of see them popped in these little islands right here, and so I was just curious if you had actually thought about the A1 zone.
So, and as to Chris's point too and stuff, nothing will be built behind us. It's not gonna, I mean, that's a hillside, and then that's part of us donating giving the property to the city too and stuff like that. Nothing will be built there. Nothing will be built on the church property to the east. It's not like we're gonna be buffering up to something. It's gonna be buffering up to the hillside is what it's gonna be. So I think the half-acre lot really gives them, you know, what they want. If you made them bigger, it's just them owning more of the hillside, which I would rather the city kind of, you know, not maintain, but have ownership over that to make sure that kids don't go up and roll rocks down and things like that.
So what I hear you saying is the lots won't actually go into the hillside at all.
That the lots won't. Sorry.
If you go to your plan, and I think this is what Chris was trying to get to, is the slope line. If we could get a good map that hopped back and forth.
Sure, I know you're trying to
explain.
lot 10. It's lot 10 for it.
The hillside goes down drastically, still down into lot 9, 10, and 11. It's not on this one, but you know what I'm talking about because it's usually kind of about where 0 is on the 10.
There you go.
That orange line, that's a good one right there. That orange line is kind of where, with what you just said, is kind of what the city should be getting, but I think you're having to go out that far to get a half acre. Is that what's happening?
I mean, really, I mean, what the city, I mean, where you kind of get into the unbuildable is the red, is where you get the unbuildable stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to make sure that lot for the
So if you could magically draw the property line
What's,
instead of,
I can't see that. What's the slope? It says it in that slope table, but I can't see what the
red is
orange
always over 30%.
What's orange though? That's what I was wondering. Is that?
I don't know.
You find it right here.
I just can't see it. It's a little.
20 to 30.
20 to 30%, so it's still really steep.
So what that's kind of what I was wondering is, could you take your property line that's right there and slide that over and truly give the entire 30% to the city? But I don't think you can, because then they wouldn't be half acres.
It wouldn't be half acre, and I mean, again, we're trying to get the bigger lots and stuff like that. I mean, that's, obviously an option, but I think big lots are good, something you talked about earlier.
I was just trying to have a good transition between those locations, because we would not want a fence to go around those lots.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I understand with you saying transition, like you said, nothing's gonna get built back there. It's gonna be the mountainside, I mean, forever back there. It'll never happen, so that's kind of what we were proposing there. But yeah, we'll make sure we have the building footprint put on these things so you guys can see really where the lots can be built on.
Right.
Sorry,
Any other questions for the applicant? Any other questions?
Maybe I'll have my engineer kind of address some of the stuff too. If you have anything with him, he might have some comments that could help out.
Sure, he can come up and share some as well.
All right, so just to address, how the cul-de-sac, why it was chosen to end where it does. It does end in the yellow areas there, but the reasoning was it gives a 65-foot deep buildable pad. For houses on a half-acre lot, they tend to be larger homes. And so what I did was I made sure there was a 65-foot deep buildable pad there. So there is a really good-sized home pad there that could do a 3-stall garage and plenty of depth to the home for any size that they'd want to create there. 20% slopes, that just lends itself to walking in your garage, up to the second floor, out the backyard, and your deck's at grade. And so it does actually work well. Having lots in the 20% to 30% slope is, for me, is fairly easy. I work up in the canyons all the time, and I'm constantly working in 30, 35s and more. So I know we can easily get a home onto those lots. So it won't be an issue.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. If there's any additional comments.
My name's Curtis Brinkerhoff. I'm on Napa Ridge Cove, which is just one street to the east. And I am representing a couple of the neighbors, the Aguirre family and Flaherty family, that could not be here. So one thing I just want to call out is that in the city planning commission packet, it states that zoning amendments require a community meeting prior. That did not happen in this case. The notification was set out about the rezoning without any community meeting taking place at all. So in any case, this was not any opportunity to discuss with the developer or anything like that prior. Obviously, that's a challenge. But I believe it's our responsibility to do everything we can to protect our community, the forestry recreation area. I'm not opposed to a compromise, but I think if we look at the rezoning separate from the development, that almost puts us in a very negative position because they're not considered together. If we're going to redirect water or detention ponds and things like that, we're going to give up recreation area. They can say they're giving property all they want, but half of it's already on their half-acre lots, and then we're going to give them density credits for half-acre lots when it's supposed to be donated, but we can't do anything with it because it's landlocked by these properties that we can't get to, we can't do anything with. And then you take that and you look at the property sizes that are in the development that are slightly less than 0.25 or slightly less than half an acre. and there's no park or community improvement unless that detention pond stays or is put somewhere else in the community. And I do not think it's fair to give up one without having the other. If we're going to give up recreation, we should have a park in that community. If you look at Shoshone Estates, which is to the east, 1 and 2, and Solemn Way, everybody paid a fee in lieu of. How many times are we going to take a fee in lieu of something good for our community? It also states, and I held a couple of these comments from previous, just to not repeat, but if we're going to give development credits for finishing a road that should have already been finished, that doesn't make sense to me. That's the city's problem. That's a community problem we need to resolve. But just for him to finish a curb and gutter and some road lineage, I'm not sure that I completely agree with that. But again, if we can work together to a compromise to support the developer with something that supports our community, I'm happy to make compromises and try to support that. But I think it needs to be looked at holistically. As far as, you know, the slope and 30% and all those things, I won't rehash what people have said, but in my front yard, I've watched the school bus slide into the home across the street from me. I'll leave it at that. I've also helped people get up the street, as mentioned. But the detention and the containment of this development backs our yard, and a lot of the natural slope goes to our yard. And I had to build a 6-foot concrete wall with a footing under it in part of the yard. And if this development goes in, that's going to need to be built along a good portion of the remainder of my backyard to hold back that property as well. So as we've tried to look at the requirements and safety and steep slopes and all those types of things, we've talked a lot about slopes, so I'm not going to repeat all of those items. The developer just mentioned that when you get into a hillside area, it's nice to have bigger lots. I don't know if you guys have been to those streets. Everything in that area is hillside lots. But we're talking about trying to reduce those lot sizes. Again, happy to make compromises as long as our community benefits from that. So I just want to see a good community built. I'm supportive of the developer if we can work together, but I think it would be a shame if we didn't consider these things together. And the fact that that community meeting didn't have a chance to take place is a concern. Maybe we can, figure that out. But I just want to see something that's successful for our community, for us to be able to build something that's good for our kids, safe for our kids, they have an area to play, and not compromise for in lieu of this or that or the other. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, can we have staff advance it just so we're looking at the 5 acres? Because we're not looking at the whole, right? If I'm right.
This one's good, just showing us the slopes though, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we're only talking about the 3 lots, right? And the flag lot. That's really all we're talking about on this rezone. I just want to make sure I'm clear.
That 5 acre, yeah.
Again, my name's Chance Gledhill. I own the property south of this. I'm all for the zone change, obviously. And if you grant this, I'm obviously going to submit my application. You'll have to grant that too. So, same thing. So anyway, just want to make that known, I guess. And where do you leave these comment sheets?
Thank you.
I'll be brief. I believe it's our responsibility to do everything we can to preserve the natural features of this hillside and the integrity of the natural land. The FR zone is more rare in a small percentage of our city, and I believe it's crucial to keep this zoned as is. A fear that I have is that if we switch to a 0.5, that it could be switched to a 0.25 if it's realized that, hey, it's not buildable, Val's kids don't want it anymore, let's just switch it to something that is buildable and fits within what we want it to fit into. From our city code, the book recommends that the forestry recreation zone is to preserve the hillside of the areas, protection of the natural and scenic resources of these areas, and continued benefit of our future generations. We are to allow sensitive and creative development and that permits continued enjoyment and protection of such natural areas and reflect the natural setting and respect unique constraints. This is a rare place to be able to have an RC zone. We're losing those more and more. We're building more and more into our hillside. And I feel like, yeah, it might just be a little bit that he's losing and donating portion of it to the city. I think even a little bit is too much. We have a greater than 30% slope. It's technically not buildable. To me, it's very crucial that we keep this as zoned. Thank you.
Could you state your name, please?
Oh, Rebecca Brinkerhoff.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we have a couple comments that Wendy will share that were either emailed or electronically submitted.
The first one isn't really a comment, it's a question from Mrs. Villagrana. She asked, would lot 19 get any bigger? We also have a comment from Matthew and Teresa Sanders. They would like to voice complete dissent of the plan to rezone FR 2.5. This action will degrade the beautiful small amount of nature left that we have behind us. Once it is rezoned and houses built, it cannot be undone. Do not allow this plan to occur and destroy more of our beautiful scenery.
Thank you, Wendy. Are there any other, or was that the last one for this?
No more questions. Nope.
All right, thank you. So we will, at this time, close the public hearing on this item, and we'll turn to the Planning Commission for additional comments. I know, at least from my perspective, when we rezone something from the FR zones, there needs to be a good reason in the sense of what it's giving or adding to the community and the city. In this case, I'm not really understanding what is being added except for a couple more homes for them to build. And so I have a little trouble with looking at this rezone request. And also, realistically, the current zone would allow for 2 homes on the entire area, so it would be one additional home built because they currently have one. And so, at least from my perspective, I'm having a lot of difficulty understanding why it would make sense to rezone or recommend that to the city council.
I agree with you. My also, the only thing we've done is shown density stepping down. And so, like I said before, when I asked the applicant, is I don't know how we would get below an A1, to be honest, if you look at what we were trying to do in other areas.
I did have one question for city staff as well, because it was brought up by one of the citizens. They talked about a community meeting. Is it required, Brenda Michael, for a community meeting on this item in our procedures? Now they're both.
Subdivisions and rezones require neighborhood meetings.
Okay, so it did miss. So am I right in it missed that, or was the other meeting considered on both items, or how did that work, I guess?
Yeah, he had one for the subdivision. And so we did not require him to have another one for the rezone.
Did it talk about the rezone in the, I guess, community meeting of the subdivision?
I'm hearing a lot of no's.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of no's, but I wasn't there, so.
No, I don't think they did.
So I guess from a city staff perspective, I guess the question is, does this need to go to a community meeting before it comes back to us? Or can a motion even be made on this?
That's a good question. I am not sure how to answer that.
I think if we move forward in a positive light, that would definitely be, we can't do that.
Yeah. Is there, I don't know, Chase, or is there a way to confirm that from someone who hopefully is on?
I am still here. Sorry, Chris, what was the question?
So the question is because it looks like they failed to have a community meeting on the rezone, and that is part of the process that we have applied within the city. So the question is, can we even make a motion on this item tonight? Or do they need to take it back to the community for that reason?
You know, that would be your decision, Chris, if you felt like they had combined that with one of the other community meetings, or you felt like they needed one specifically for that matter. That would be a decision that you, as the commission, could make.
Okay. Thank you, Chase. Michael?
Let me also just make a comment. It's my understanding this is an adopted policy of the city council. The process is not in the ordinance, but it is an adopted policy. And I think there was just, there was like an interpretation made of that policy on that rezone. We knew we had the subdivision already held. As Bryn mentioned, we weren't there. We were under the impression that was discussed. Obviously it wasn't. We had a lot of folks saying it wasn't talked about. But yeah, I think there was an interpretation of the policy, and we can certainly go back and have that meeting if that's what we need to do.
So
Chris,
I have a, go ahead, Lauren.
I was going to say, I don't know which way the vote's going to go necessarily, but we could make that a condition on, even, the motion moving forward, whether we deny or approve, that it be held before it comes to city council as well.
Well, and again, it's going to go before the city council. I mean, we're going to make a recommendation.
Yeah, all we do is make a recommendation.
All we do is make a recommendation. We've heard a lot of comments, one, opposed to this and a couple for, but I think we've heard enough. And again, it's going to be up to the city council to make that. I don't know if we need to drag this on any further, especially when I know, well, at least I have an idea of how we're going to vote.
I've got a couple quick thoughts.
A recommendation, so.
Yeah, and I agree. I do believe that the community and the information has been pretty adequately expressed to us in this case. I think in a lot of cases, it may not be what happens, but
right.
I think we definitely have heard from the community in this case.
Correct.
Can I get a couple quick thoughts?
Yeah. Yes, Jackson.
So I think the piece for me is, what is the benefit to the community of switching to 8.5? And
2.5. He wants 8.25.
No, he wants 8.5 for this.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
So my thought is, I can see where, if he wants to be able to have two of his kids move in next to him, that makes, I can see the value in that. And so my thought is if he had two 8.1 lots for his two kids, that kind of makes sense. But, dropping all the way to 8.5, I don't think that makes as much sense.
When you said 0.1, you meant A1, correct?
A1, yeah, sorry, A1, correct. That's what I meant. So it's getting late. But if we had two A1 lots for each of his kids, that makes more sense to me. Because then I'm like, okay, I can see why we would want to, that would improve the community by keeping a family together. That kind of makes sense.
Well,
or if they did two A1 lots and included a park or access to a trail or something else, then there's a benefit to the community in doing that. Right now, I just don't see any benefit by making it 3 lots.
So that I agree with what you're saying, Jackson, and I wanted to have staff go and look at the application outline, because what I heard the applicant say is he only wants to put 8.5 around just those 3 lots, not the flag lot piece, just those 3 lots.
And then he did express dedicating some of that property, which I assume is that in red, to the city.
Correct.
Okay, so
it does change that there is some benefit now looking at it.
So that to me is some benefit, but
is.
one question I have is, what does the current application say? Does it say rezone the entire piece of property as, I know what he's saying now and I get it, but I need to know, what does it say currently in that application?
On the staff recommendation.
And his phone died, that's why he's asking.
Yes, my phone is dead, so I can't look at the
The
electronic.
application says 5 acres. It says the entire 5 acres.
Okay.
Just to that point, so we actually called in to Bryn and asked her to change that. She didn't want to change it just because it was a little late with it. With staff working from home, sometimes it's hard to get a hold of her. So we sent that before any of the packets that got sent out or anything like that, that's what we'd like to do. We didn't get a response back for probably 3 or 4 days after that. But then she'd already, put the packets together. But that's why it was presented to the 5. We wanted it to just be just where we're doing the lots, so.
Okay, thank you.
And the recommendation from the staff is approval of the rezone on the portion of the property that is not located within the hillside overlay zone.
But
So
it has
technically,
some
that
in
is-
it.
That's the staff recommendation. I'm just saying.
But that's what I want to have clarification, because I thought I read that, and that's what I was asking.
Yes.
Is
So
there
technically,
is red in the property.
That's right. So that would not be, according to the staff's recommendation, would not be rezoned. So how can that?
they couldn't.
And that's why I go back, and if somebody can get me back to the overall, so we can talk like what Jackson was saying, I believe we should not show, even to get to an A1, that is going to show a betterment, which should show giving us open space and things, but I don't know how we get below that, because there is nothing. So to me, to go from FR 2.5, the next one logically would be an A1. And then to go from an A1 to an A.5, there should be something. And that's what I'm trying to understand is, just to go from the FR 2.5 to the A1, I could see that we get the open, so the hillside overlay area possibly. But I don't see how we go below that.
How you go from the 30% hillside right to an 0.5.
Correct.
Which, in essence, really, the only option is if they cut that down the middle, they probably could get 2 lots.
And maybe with some creative design, like we were talking earlier with the knuckle, maybe they'll have to do something like that anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's just it, right? We're talking about not allowing the 12% slopes. They're going to have to rework these lots anyway. So it'll be interesting. So
I'm still
my
stuck on the
recommendation would
10%.
be not to approve it, not to recommend approval. So that's going to be going up to the city anyway, the council. But nonetheless, that's all going to have to be reworked anyway. So I think it would behoove them to get that all worked out before they came back to the city council for their final recommendation.
Except for they have to get their recommendation from the council one way or the other before they really know what we.
True,
And
but
the
they need to
council-
show something that's buildable
But the council,
and
the council can approve based on different things, or.
That's
yeah.
right. But if they have the information, I'm just trying to give him some ammunition as well to have.
I have a difficult time rezoning the FR because of what it stands for in the city. I just have a difficult time, period.
Yeah.
And so, I mean.
I'm okay with the rezone of FR outside of the hillside zone, right? I mean, some of that, but not to go to the 0.5. That's my position.
And I see now why they're asking for it, because it's got the lot that's a flag lot that goes back behind the lot.
Sure.
That all of that's the higher slope, and I mean that could be left as FR 2.5 zone because most of it's 30% slope anyway. So.
But Andy, what are you saying that you're comfortable with? If
I'm
you did
okay
do a
with the
rezone?
rezone, but not to the 0.5 of everything else. So the
You're
staff's
only
recommendation.
talking about just those 3 lots is the only thing you're saying you're comfortable with, but you're even saying you're not even comfortable including some of the red. Is that
Not the
true?
red.
Not red at all.
Not red at all.
I agree with that.
And that's the staff's recommendation, right? Was to rezone only the portion located outside of the hillside.
But I don't think staff was that specific. I don't think they're saying, because you wouldn't be able to get 3 lots.
Well, it says right there, the staff recommends approval of the rezone on the portion of the property that is not located within the hillside overlay zone. That's their recommendation.
The hillside overlay zone doesn't necessarily correspond exactly with where that 30% slope is, though, just to be clear.
Yeah, where's that big
Okay.
map again?
Go back to
I
that.
assume that's what that was. That hillside overlay.
Do you have the map?
Here is the hillside overlay zone.
They're saying they're willing to go to there. However, there is 30% slope from where she's drawn her mouse to the left.
It's down
There is some
Yes.
30%. Well, then I wouldn't be. Yeah. No, I'm okay rezoning anything less than 30%.
Where's that larger map that shows the FR zones that surround it as well, just out of curiosity?
Just one level back.
But not to that point, not to the point
It's
five.
like the application for this property right there.
This is all, yeah.
And see, that's what we've kind of done. If you look at the A1s, we've done, you really can't count the Cove stuff because that was all a master plan community. So that those FR1s was included in the density holistically. Because if you remember, the Cove goes all the way down. So it shows FR1, but it actually goes down. But these FR 2.5s right here, to me, if you were going to do anything, it would be an A1, because you can see that's what we've consistently done around those areas.
No, I agree. That's what I was saying. I think we're on the same page.
But I still don't know if I even see that that's, I mean, we're talking a very small amount of land.
And how do you develop it?
That I don't see as developable at A1 even.
Well,
I think
recommendation is.
it's a recommendation. So what's your
motion?
I'm hearing your motion. Go for it. I hear it. You hear it? I can hear what you're going to say.
Are we ready? All right. On item 4.1, I recommend recommend to the city council to not approve the zone change as currently shown due to the lack of transition from the A 2.5 to the FR 2.5 to the A 0.25.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Andy, and I think Adam was a little quicker, so second by Adam. And then we'll call for a vote. Adam?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
And Jackson, and this is a recommendation to the city council, so it still will go to.
You didn't let him vote.
Jackson?
Yes.
Oh, I thought, I heard it. I heard it in my ear. All right, and so that's the last item on our agenda for tonight out of legislative items. Are there any additional chair and commission comments?
I do have just one. If we're going to be in this kind of forum, I do think we need one person from staff here, like actually in
the room?
In the room, because I think there is a delay. And so when Bryn was moving her computer earlier, we're hopping like 4 slides. And so it is something where we need somebody to control it from this room. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I felt like that was really hard this time.
Okay. And then I do have one other comment, just so on one of the Herriman City forums, they talked about a pump track, and someone from city staff mentioned that the City Planning Commission denied the pump track being built, and that's inaccurate. I just want to put on public comment. It was actually continued. I don't know if it'll come back or not, obviously, since it's a Herriman City application, but it was a continued item because no decision was made because we were asking about parking. So, but I did notice that they did state on there, whoever the staff was, that the Planning Commission denied it, which was not the case. And so, future meetings, Wednesday, September 23rd, 2010 is a city council meeting. Wednesday, September 30th, 2020 is a joint city council and planning commission meeting. Thursday, October 1st is a planning commission meeting. And we will make a motion to adjourn, but we will reconvene to our work meeting in regards to the general plan. And so a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
I heard everyone and saw their mouths move except for Andrea. Did you motion yes? Andrea? Okay. I'm sure you did, but we are going to take a couple minutes just before we reconvene to the work meeting, though. Just a brief break. Thank you so much for coming, guys. I didn't see him. No problem. Thank you. No, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate the comments. We really do, because some things we don't know because we're not always in the depth.